Chapter 1136. At the same time. Outside, the ice lake. After Qin Feiyang and the other two entered the castle, the white-robed old man's divine might went straight to the bottom of the lake. Who dares to disturb my meditation? Immediately. A pleasant voice sounded from the bottom of the lake, but it was filled with a bone-piercing chill. Following closely. A mighty divine might rushed out from the bottom of the lake, like a torrent of beasts, rolling up monstrous waves and pouncing towards the white-robed old man standing in the air. The white-robed old man was surprised. Not good. Suddenly. He seemed to have thought of something, and his face suddenly changed. Without any hesitation, he retreated like lightning. However, the speed of the divine might was even more terrifying, instantly imprisoning him in the air. Dong! At the same time, a huge snow python rushed out from the ice lake and floated in front of the white-robed old man. Its eyes seemed to be condensed from ice, emitting a great pressure. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you." When the white-robed old man saw the snow python, his body and mind trembled, and he quickly apologized. "If you didn't mean it, then you did it on purpose." The snow python looked at him playfully. "I didn't mean it." The white-robed old man shook his head, his eyes filled with fear. "Since you didn't do it on purpose, did you come here to court death? If that's the case, then I'll fulfill your wish." The snow python's eyes turned cold, raised its huge tail, and slapped the white-robed old man's body. "Ah!" The white-robed old man screamed, his body cracked on the spot, and blood stained the sky. Like a meteorite, he smashed into the glacier below. The snow python's strength was too strong. In front of her, even the white-robed old man who was only one step away from becoming a war god had no power to fight back. At the same time, on the surface of the ice lake, two heads popped out. It was Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei. "Who is she? How can she be so strong?" Yan Wei secretly asked, looking at the snow python above. His eyes were filled with fear. Qin Feiyang said, "She is the guardian of the teleportation altar. According to my guess, she should be a real god." "A real god?" Yan Wei's eyes trembled. No wonder Qin Feiyang and Fatso said that there would be a good show to watch. What was the difference between a fake god meeting a real god and seeking death? "Don't bother about them, let's go." Qin Feiyang called out and rushed to the bottom of the lake. This was not the first time he had come here, so he easily found the entrance and entered the cave below the ice lake. "I didn't expect there to be such a place in the first district." Looking at the grotto and the teleportation altar, Yan Wei's face was filled with hope. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and pointed his index finger in the air. Battle chi surged out and gushed towards the teleportation altar. Whing! Very soon, the teleportation altar was activated. Whoosh! But at the same time, the snow python transformed into a meter long and appeared in the cave. "Greetings, Senior." Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank, and he hurriedly bowed. Yan Wei was also respectful, he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. The snow python glanced at Yan Wei, then looked at Qin Feiyang and jokingly said, "Do you think that you can slip away from under my nose?" Qin Feiyang looked a little embarrassed. Suddenly, the snow python glanced at Yan Wei and said to Qin Feiyang, "You can go, but he can't." "Why?" Qin Feiyang wondered. The snow python said, "Because he's not from the great Qin Empire, he can't set foot in that place. There's such a rule." "What about the Mu family? They also went to the great Qin Empire a lot, why don't you care?" Qin Feiyang frowned. The snow python said, "That's because I didn't see it. If I saw it, I wouldn't allow them to go to the great Qin Empire." "You didn't see it?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and immediately smiled. "That's easy." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent Yan Wei to the castle, then said, "Senior, you can't see it like this. The veins on the snow python's forehead jumped. Does this kid think I'm a monkey? Just when she was about to go crazy, Qin Feiyang spoke first. Senior, there's a problem that has puzzled this junior for a long time. What's the problem? The snow python asked. Qin Feiyang suspiciously asked. Why do the state preceptor and the Black Iron Army have a time limit to enter the Forgotten Continent, but I don't? What do you think? The snow python asked. Qin Feiyang said. This junior has seriously thought about this problem. This junior thinks that senior should be protecting this junior. Protecting you? The snow python was stunned and sneered. Boy, you're too self-righteous. Qin Feiyang frowned. Then senior, why don't you tell me why? Because of your ancestor. Only your family's ancestor has that much face, not you. Do you understand? The snow python said. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. It's actually because of his ancestor again. The forefathers plant trees, the descendants enjoy the shade. This sentence is really not wrong. Because of his ancestor, Gongsun Bei let him go. Because of his ancestor, he and the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House escaped from the hands of the Chief Tower. Because of his ancestor, they escaped from the inland sea. Also, because of the ancestor, the snow python turned a blind eye to it. Although he has never seen his ancestor, he doesn't know how much kindness he has received from his ancestor over the years. It's hard to repay. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang remembered the old man in the white robe and asked. Senior, where's the old man of the Mu family? He's kneeling outside. The snow python said lightly. Qin Feiyang was secretly speechless. Making a fake god kneel outside, I'm afraid that in the world, only this guy in front of him can do it. No matter what the reason is, I have to thank Senior for taking care of me all these years. If there's a chance in the future, Junior will definitely repay Senior. Qin Feiyang bowed and stepped on the teleportation altar, quickly disappearing. Repay, the snow python muttered to herself. But in the next moment, she couldn't help but be annoyed. Originally, she came to stop Yen Wei, but in the end, Qin Feiyang repeatedly changed the topic, and she forgot about this matter. Little guy, you dare to play tricks with me, just you wait, next time you won't be able to finish your meal. She snorted coldly, flew out of the cave, and landed on the ice lake. She saw the old man in the white robe, kneeling on the snow. The snow python looked down at him condescendingly and said. I just heard Qin Feiyang say that your Mu family often goes to the great Qin Empire. The old man in the white robe tensed up. This is slander. Slander? The snow python sneered. Do you still remember the promise you made to me when you came to the Forgotten Continent? I remember. The old man in the white robe nodded. The snow python said. Then tell me. The old man in the white robe said. At that time, we promised that we would stay in the Forgotten Continent forever, and never set foot in the great Qin Empire again. That's right. At that time, I couldn't bear it, so I allowed you to stay in the Forgotten Continent, but what about you? It's fine if you don't know how to be grateful, but you also went against me behind my back. Now tell me, how should I resolve this matter? The snow python said lightly. Although her tone was calm, it was filled with a great pressure. The old man in the white robe's face changed. He hurriedly said. Master, we really didn't go there, it's Qin Feiyang who is slandering us, please investigate. Still quibbling. You've disappointed me too much. Originally, if you were willing to admit your mistakes and repent, I would be merciful and let your Mu family live. But now, the snow python's eyes flashed coldly. Hand over the gate of time and space. What? The old man in the white robe's eyes trembled. The gate of time and space is the Mu family's biggest reliance. It can even be said that the gate of time and space is related to the Mu family's lifeline. Now that they want him to hand over the gate of time and space, isn't this putting the Mu family to death? The snow python said. You can choose not to hand it over, but your Mu family will be destroyed today. The old man in the white robe's face instantly turned pale. He hurriedly said. I'll hand it over immediately. As he spoke, he took out the gate of time and space. This is the Real Gate of Time and Space. Vast and mighty. The snow python looked at the gate of time and space, then looked at the old man in the white robe. This is your last chance, take care of yourself. After saying that, she flashed and landed in front of the old man in the white robe. She rolled up the gate of time and space and entered the ice lake without looking back. The surface of the lake gradually calmed down, and a thin layer of ice slowly condensed. The old man in the white robe powerlessly collapsed on the snow. His old face was full of pain and despair. This time, he came out with full confidence to snatch the divine crystal. However, in the end, not only did he fail to snatch the divine crystal, but he also lost the 9-star War Emperor. Now, even the gate of time and space is gone. This loss is too great. It can't even be described as disastrous. He regretted it in his heart. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have done it in the first place. At the same time, the hatred in his heart towards Qin Feiyang had already risen to an unprecedented level. Because all of this was caused by Qin Feiyang. Great Qin Empire. Butterfly Valley. The old man is long gone. Now, the people guarding this place are the invincible Black Army of the imperial capital. In the valley, the invincible Black Army stood straight with halberds in their hands. In a blink of an eye, there are more than 100 of them. Furthermore, these people were all battle saints. The strongest person is a deputy commander of the invincible Black Army, who is a 9-star war saint. A 9-star war saint is definitely the strongest existence in the 9 states of the Great Qin Empire. Because the strongest prefecture master in the history of the 9 states is not stronger than a 9-star war saint. For example, the ugly old woman Zhu Yu was only a 9-star war saint. Therefore, in the years that the invincible Black Army has been stationed in the spirit state has never been peaceful. Of course. With the invincible Black Army, Wang Hong, the current prefecture master, is only in name. Swoosh! In the sky above Butterfly Valley, a white figure appeared out of thin air. It is Qin Feiyang. Who is it? Qin Feiyang didn't hide his aura at all. Therefore, the invincible Black Army stationed in the Butterfly Valley discovered him immediately. 14th Prince. However, when they saw Qin Feiyang's real face, they all changed color. Clang! Following that, one by one, they waved their halberds and rushed into the sky, surrounding Qin Feiyang. The void here was instantly filled with a murderous aura. They really think highly of me. They sent so many people to guard here. Chapter 1137. Qin Feiyang, you shouldn't have come back. Along with a loud shout, a burly man flew up to the sky. His eyes were as cold as a blade. Greetings, Deputy Commander. The invincible Black Army bowed. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at the burly man and said indifferently, a 9-star battle saint is able to become the deputy commander of the invincible Black Army. It seems like the great Qin Empire has exhausted its talents. How dare you? How dare you talk to me like this with your cultivation base? The burly man shouted. If it was in the past, he could only endure such undisguised contempt. This was because the person in front of him was the son of the Supreme Emperor. But now, this person was just a pitiful worm that everyone wanted to beat up. Even if he was killed here, no one would care. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, my cultivation base is not strong, but it is still easy for me to kill you. How arrogant. The burly man was furious. He looked at the invincible Black Army and shouted, what are you waiting for? Have you forgotten the Emperor's order? Kill anyone who sees this thief. Boom! The invincible black army that surrounded Qin Feiyang suddenly unleashed their aura and attacked together. The halberds in their hands emitted a monstrous light. Kill him, Qin Feiyang muttered to himself. If he had heard this in the past, he would have been sad and pained. But now, he felt nothing. It was as if it had nothing to do with him. But he had not really let it go. He was in despair. He no longer had any hope. Without any extravagant hopes, naturally, there wouldn't be so much disappointment and emotions. Swoosh! Qin Feiyang moved his mind and Yen Wei appeared out of thin air. Leave no one alive. Qin Feiyang said calmly. Understood. Yen Wei glanced at the invincible black army that was charging at him. His eyes flashed with killing intent. Boom! The Emperor's aura exploded and shocked everyone. Everyone present was instantly imprisoned in the void. Including the burly man. It's a combat emperor. Why is there a battle emperor by his side? The group of people turned pale with fright, their hearts filled with disbelief. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, the last time I came back, I brought a group of fake gods with me. This time, I brought a battle god back. Is it that strange? Everyone's heart trembled. That's right. Even a false god could be invited, let alone a mere battled arch. The burly man's face turned pale as he begged, Your Highness, I was wrong. Please have mercy on me. Don't kill me, begging for mercy so soon. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Originally, he thought that as the deputy commander of the invincible Black Army, he should have some backbone, but he didn't expect that he would be scared before the battle even started. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He said to Yen Wei, keep him. All right. Yen Wei nodded. The formless emperor's aura was like a sharp blade. In the blink of an eye, it sliced through the throats of more than 100 invincible Black Army soldiers. The void here suddenly bled like a waterfall. Except for the burly man, no one was spared. All of them died on the spot. Seeing this scene, the burly man panicked even more. He was so scared that he peed his pants. Qin Feiyang turned to look at him and said indifferently, I can spare your life. You betrayed the emperor and joined me. Yes, yes, the burly man didn't hesitate at all and nodded repeatedly. Such a spineless person deserves to be killed. Yen Wei snorted coldly. You're right, but he still has value. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. What value? Yen Wei frowned. Qin Feiyang said to himself, I have to ask him to take me to the imperial capital and cripple his cultivation. Understood. Yen Wei's eyes flashed. He pointed his index finger in the air and a stream of battle chi entered the burly man's lower abdomen like lightning. Ah, the burly man immediately held his lower abdomen and howled miserably. At the same time, Qin Feiyang formed a seal with both hands. A slave seal appeared and rushed into the burly man's head. Why did you come back? But at this moment, an angry voice sounded. A middle-aged man in white appeared in front of Qin Feiyang. He had a square face, a rough face, thick eyebrows, big eyes, and a black eye patch on his left eye. The aura he emitted was quite powerful. He was Wang Hong. Looking at Qin Feiyang, his eyes were filled with blame and worry. Qin Feiyang laughed, long time no see. Still smiling mischievously. Wang Hong slightly raised his eyebrows, and said, Do you know how dangerous your current situation is? Does it matter? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Of course it matters. You were fine in Forgotten Continent, why did you come back to die? Wang Hong said angrily. Die? I never thought that I was sending myself to death. Qin Feiyang said. You, looking at Qin Feiyang's innocent expression, Wang Hong was so angry that he glared. At this moment, The burly man shouted, "Wang Hong, I'm ordering you to take him down." Wang Hong glanced at the burly man, then looked at Qin Feiyang, his expression uncertain. Qin Feiyang sighed, "Actually, you shouldn't have come out." If he didn't come out, Wang Hong could pretend that he didn't see him. But since he came out, as the Spirit State's mansion master, he couldn't sit idly by. "But I came out," Wang Hong said. Qin Feiyang said, "You and the old man are really alike, but you are both blindly loyal, do you know that?" Wang Hong said, "Blindly loyal or stupid, I am a subject, so I must do my duty." Sigh. I really never thought that one day we would become enemies. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. I also never thought that there would be such a day. Wang Hong shook his head. Then make your move, I will also do my best to show my respect for you. Qin Feiyang said. Boom. The aura of a 4-star battle saint exploded. What? 4-star battle saint? The burly man's gaze trembled. How long had it been since Qin Feiyang caused havoc in the imperial city? He had already stepped into the realm of a 4-star battle saint. Wang Hong was even more incredulous. Thinking back, when this kid first entered the state capital, he was only a battle king. In just a few years, he had climbed to such a height, leaving others in the dust. However, Yan Wei frowned and sent a sound transmission to Qin Feiyang. I can see that the relationship between the two of you was very good in the past. Is it really okay for you to attack without holding back like this? He could see through Wang Hong's cultivation at a glance. He was only a battle master. Facing the current Qin Feiyang, he was no match for him. I know Wang Hong's character very well. Hiding one's strength and giving in to him is the greatest disrespect to him. Qin Feiyang said to himself. So that's how it is. Yan Wei suddenly understood. Boom. Wang Hong's body shook and his aura surged out. Even though I know that I'm no longer your opponent, I still want to try. I want to see how much you've grown. Wang Hong took a step forward and threw a punch at Qin Feiyang. Then feel it carefully. Qin Feiyang struck out with his palm. In an instant, the fist and palm collided. Boom. With a loud sound, Wang Hong's arm was torn into pieces on the spot. Blood splattered across the sky. Immediately after, like a meteorite, he smashed into the butterfly valley below. Dust and smoke rose in all directions and a deep pit appeared. Then, he never got up again. He lay at the bottom of the deep pit, his life and death unknown. However, there was a faint gratified smile on his blood-stained face. Qin Feiyang also smiled. Immediately, he turned to look at the burly man and said, "You'd better not try anything because after being controlled by the slave seal, I can clearly peek into your inner thoughts and can even erase your soul in an instant." What? The burly man's eyes trembled. Qin Feiyang said, "Quickly take the spiritual sea pill and then take us to the imperial capital." Yes. The burly man quickly nodded and took out a spiritual sea pill and put it into his mouth. Qin Feiyang didn't look at Wang Hong anymore. He landed in front of a dead soldier of the invincible Black Army. He took off the armor and put it on. Then, he swallowed an illusion pill and changed into an unfamiliar face. Time passed by breath. After the burly man repaired his sea of qi and wiped the blood off his body, he took Qin Feiyang to the secret chamber below the Butterfly Valley. As for Yan Wei, Qin Feiyang sent him to the castle. As for Wang Hong, Qin Feiyang of course would not really kill him. He just made him faint. After a while, Qin Feiyang and the burly man entered the secret chamber and came to the teleportation altar. Qin Feiyang looked at the burly man and said, "You should have family in the imperial capital, right? What do you want to do?" The burly man was surprised. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I just want to tell you, don't play any tricks. Otherwise, not only will you die, but your family will also be implicated." He was worried that this person was not afraid of death and appeared in the pagoda, exposing his identity in front of Old Man Qin. One had to know. Old Man Qin was not only a false god, but the pagoda was also located in the back mountain of the imperial palace. If his identity was exposed, he would not be able to escape even if he had a pair of wings. That was why he threatened this person, so that he would completely give up. "You're a demon," the burly man shouted. Qin Feiyang said lightly, "Since you know I'm a demon, why do you still want to provoke me?" The burly man held his breath and then sighed helplessly. Battle chi surged and the teleportation altar quickly recovered. Pagoda. 9 blood-red altars were neatly arranged on the ground, emitting an ancient and cold aura. Next to each altar, there was a stone tablet with different words engraved on it. Ling state, Yun state, He state, You state, Foam state, etc. The 9 altars were dim. Suddenly, the teleportation altar of Ling state suddenly shone with a resplendent blood light. 2 figures appeared on the altar out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyang and the burly man. At the same time as the altar recovered, the pagoda's door opened rapidly. Outside the door, an old man with white hair and a white beard stood. His white robes were spotless and his aura was otherworldly. He was the guardian of the pagoda, Old Man Qin. "Greetings, Old Man Qin." Qin Feiyang jumped down from the altar and followed behind the burly man. He walked quickly to Old Man Qin and bowed. Old Man Qin glanced at Qin Feiyang and then at the burly man, asking, "Do you have news of Qin Feiyang?" "No." The burly man shook his head. Old Man Qin frowned and shouted, "Then why did you come back? Don't you know that leaving your post without permission will result in death?" "Spare me, Old Man Qin." The burly man knelt on the ground hurriedly and said, "I have something important to do and have to return home." "Old Man Qin, please make an exception. I promise that it won't take more than 3 days." Old Man Qin frowned and said, 3 days is too long. 1 day at most. You have to return to Butterfly Valley tomorrow morning. All right. Thank you, Old Man Qin. The burly man was grateful. With that said, he stood up and opened the teleportation gate, bringing Qin Feiyang in. Wait. But suddenly. Chapter 1138. Have we been discovered? Qin Feiyang and Old Man Qin's body stiffened. They stopped, looked at each other, braced themselves and turned to look at Old Man Qin. The burly man asked, "Old Man Qin, what can I do for you?" He was extremely nervous. Old Man Qin said, "I heard that the Invincible Black Army and the Kirin Army are very close to the Imperial Preceptor." Qin Feiyang secretly breathed a sigh of relief. However, Old Man Qin's question aroused his interest. At the same time, in the face of Old Man Qin's sudden question, the burly man was also a little unprepared. Old Man Qin looked at the burly man and said, "I don't want to hear any lies. I don't dare." The burly man quickly lowered his head and said fearfully, "Then say it." Old Man Qin said. The burly man hesitated for a moment, looked up at Old Man Qin and said, "To be honest, it's not that we are very close to the Imperial Preceptor. It's because the Imperial Preceptor has a high status and we dare not disobey his orders." Old Man Qin said, "Then what do you think of the Imperial Preceptor?" After that, Old Man Qin looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "You can also tell me your opinion." Qin Feiyang was stunned and hurriedly shook his head, "I don't dare to talk nonsense. It doesn't matter. There's no one here except me. And what you're going to say next, I won't mention it to anyone." Old Man Qin said. Qin Feiyang turned to look at the burly man. The burly man also looked very embarrassed and didn't speak for a long time. Looking at the expressions of the two, Old Man Qin frowned and then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "You say it." Qin Feiyang said in fear, "Old Man Qin, I'm just an ordinary soldier in the Invincible Black Army. How dare I evaluate the Imperial Preceptor? Just say it. Why are you talking nonsense? Moreover, because you're an ordinary soldier in the invincible Black Army, I want to hear your opinion the most. After all, the people who are in contact with the Imperial Preceptor the most are some commanders. It's hard to guarantee that they won't be soft-mouthed. Old man Qin glanced at the burly man as he spoke. The burly man's eyes trembled. Old Qin's words could be said to have a profound meaning. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He cupped his hands and said, "Then I will speak frankly." "Yes." Old man Qin nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "This lowly one thinks that Imperial Preceptor is deceiving his superiors and concealing the truth with one hand." Old Qin's eyes instantly emitted a fierce light when he heard this, and he seemed to be overbearing. He looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "How do you know?" Although the Grand Preceptor always says that he is thinking for His Majesty, many people know that he has a hidden agenda. Qin Feiyang said. "Continue." Old Qin said. "I won't mention those trivial matters. Let's just talk about Qin Feiyang." Back then, the imperial tutor guessed that Qin Feiyang might be in the Forgotten Continent. Logically speaking, he should have reported such an important matter to His Majesty as soon as possible. But he didn't. He directly sent the great commander to the Forgotten Continent to kill Qin Feiyang. This is enough to show that his motive for killing Qin Feiyang is not simple. There is one more thing. This lowly one heard that the Imperial Preceptor once went to the Forgotten Continent alone. Qin Feiyang said. Old Qin's eyes flashed. He was silent. Qin Feiyang also did not say anything. Because he believed that with old Qin's intelligence, he would definitely be able to hear something from his words. For him, this could be considered a piece of good news. Because old Qin definitely did not ask this on a whim. He definitely already suspected the Imperial Preceptor. A moment later. Old Qin waved his hand and said, "Okay, you can leave." This lowly one will take his leave. Qin Feiyang and the burly man bowed and saluted. Then, they opened another teleportation gate and walked in one after another. Inner City. In a luxurious mansion, in front of a hall, Qin Feiyang and the burly man appeared out of thin air. "Sir." Outside the main hall, 4 guards were standing straight. Seeing the burly man suddenly appear, the 4 were stunned. "Sir, aren't you in the spirit state? Why did you suddenly come back? Could it be that you already know Qin Feiyang's whereabouts?" When they came back to their senses, the 4 hurriedly went up and asked. "There is still no news of Qin Feiyang. This time, I came back to take care of something. You guys guard outside. Without my order, no one is allowed to come in." The burly man glanced at the 4 and ordered. Then, he led Qin Feiyang straight into the hall. After closing the door, the burly man turned to Qin Feiyang and said, "I have brought you into the imperial capital. Now, shouldn't you also remove the slave seal? Do you think I am stupid? If I remove the slave seal now, you will immediately inform the Imperial Preceptor and the Emperor. Then, won't I become a turtle in a jar?" Qin Feiyang sneered. The burly man's eyes darkened as he asked, "Then, when will you be willing to remove the slave seal? Don't be hasty. When I am safe, I will naturally set you free." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The burly man said in a deep voice, "This time, you came back to see the Empress. But now, the Empress is imprisoned in the Violet Light Palace and is guarded by the Kirin army. Without my help, you can't enter at all." Violet Light Palace. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He glanced at the burly man and sneered, "If you want to use this to threaten me, then you are gravely mistaken." With that, he took out the image crystal. Buzz. A moment later. A middle-aged man appeared in the void. He was thin but as straight as a pine tree. He wore a purple armor, and his hair was mottled with white hair. He exuded an aura of vicissitudes. And on his battle armor, there was an eye-catching Qilin pattern. That's right. He was the commander of the Kirin army. You are. Looking at Qin Feiyang, the commander of the Kirin army had a trace of suspicion on his face. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "We haven't seen each other for half a year. Have you already forgotten me? Haven't seen each other for half a year?" The commander of the Kirin army was even more confused. "Looks like I need to remind you." Qin Feiyang smiled. With a slight thought, he activated the slave seal. The commander of the Kirin army immediately held his head and cried out in pain. Qin Feiyang stopped activating the slave seal and smiled. "Now, do you know who I am? It's you. You dare to come back?" The commander of the Kirin army looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. Ever since he was controlled by Qin Feiyang, he had been trying to find a way to break the slave seal, but no matter what he did, he could not break it. So, when he felt the familiar pain, he immediately knew who the person in front of him was. "Come to my place right now. I'm at the mansion of the deputy commander of the invincible Black Army." Qin Feiyang then gave the commander of the Kirin army a set of coordinates. In less than 3 breaths, the commander of the Kirin army landed in the Grand Hall and looked at Qin Feiyang with a trace of surprise in his eyes. He asked, "You've reached the 4-star Battle Saint realm?" Qin Feiyang nodded. "Good job." The commander of the Kirin army gave him a thumbs up. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, "How's my mother?" The commander of the Kirin army didn't answer. Instead, he glanced at the burly man. Qin Feiyang thought to himself, "Don't worry. When this is over, I'll make him disappear from the spiritual state." The commander of the Kirin army narrowed his eyes and sighed. "Can you stop messing around? This won't do you any good. Do you think there's any room for improvement in my relationship with the emperor?" Qin Feiyang sneered. "Why not? As long as you lower your head and apologize, I'm sure the emperor will forgive you." The commander of the Kirin army said. "I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I lower my head and apologize to him? He's the one who should apologize." Qin Feiyang said. "Alas." The commander of the Kirin army sighed deeply and said with a smile, "Although Her Majesty was sent to the Violet Light Palace, she's been doing well since she saw you last time. Her complexion is much better than before." Qin Feiyang asked, "Has he visited my mother?" Of course, he was referring to the emperor. "No." The commander of the Kirin army shook his head and said, "Are you disappointed?" "I've never expected anything. Why would I be disappointed?" Qin Feiyang sneered and said, "I want to see my mother." The commander of the Kirin army looked troubled. "You don't have a choice." Qin Feiyang said. "Okay." The commander of the Kirin army nodded and took out a set of Kirin army armor and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang took off the invincible Black Army's armor and quickly put it on. Then, he looked at the commander of the Qilin army and said, "Last time, you betrayed me in the divine penitentiary and almost caused me to lose my life. Until now, I still remember it. If you dare to play any tricks this time, I will definitely not show mercy." The commander of the Kirin army smiled bitterly and opened a portal. He turned around and walked in. "Wait for me here." Qin Feiyang instructed the tall and sturdy man. Then, he turned around and followed in. The Violet Light Palace. It was located in the outskirts of the palace. It was very remote and only the unfavored concubines would be sent here. In other words, it was equivalent to the cold palace. Once the concubines were sent here, their lives were basically hopeless. This was why Qin Feiyang was so angry when he heard about the Violet Light Palace. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang and the burly man appeared in front of a hall. "Greetings, Commander." Outside the main hall, the Qilin army was on guard every 3 steps and a sentry every 7 steps. They were extremely vigilant. The commander of the Kirin army asked, "Where is Her Majesty?" One of them said respectfully, "Her Majesty is inside." "Open the door." The commander of the Kirin army said. "Yes." The man turned around and walked to the door of the hall and pushed it open. The commander of the Kirin army strode in with Qin Feiyang. The decoration in the hall was very simple. Except for a table and a few stools, there was nothing else. It looked empty and cold. The only tables and stools in the room were also very old and shabby. But it was very clean and spotless. However, Qin Feiyang didn't see his mother in the hall. The commander of the Kirin army said, "Her Majesty should be on the second floor. Go up quickly. I'll wait for you downstairs." However, Qin Feiyang didn't move. He looked at the commander of the Kirin army with a cold light in his eyes. The commander of the Kirin army sighed and said, "Don't worry. I won't inform His Majesty and the state preceptor this time. You'd better." A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes. He took off the armor on his body, and took out a pure white robe from his Qinquan bag. He put it on neatly, and then took a facial restoration pill. After that, he recovered his true appearance, and walked towards the second floor. At this moment, a woman in white was sitting at a wooden table in the hall on the second floor. Although her clothes were a bit old, it didn't affect her temperament. Chapter 1139. On the table. There was water, flour, and sugar. The woman sat in front of the table with a rosy face, making all kinds of exquisite pastries. Two maids sat beside her to help. One of the maids said with a smile, "Your Highness, if His Highness knows that you make so many pastries for him every day, he will be so touched." "Really?" the woman in white asked with a smile. "Of course. I just don't know when His Highness will come back." The two female attendants spoke, and there was a trace of disappointment on their faces. The woman in white looked up outside the window and said with a smile, "He will come back sooner or later." Tada! Before she finished speaking, there was a sound of footsteps. Someone is coming. Who would come here? It can't be His Majesty, can it? The two maids heard the footsteps and immediately looked up at the stairs outside with a trace of suspicion on their faces. "Let's go and see." The woman in white smiled. "Okay." The two maids put down what they were doing and got up to walk to the stairs. But after taking 2 steps, they were stunned. At the entrance of the staircase, a familiar figure slowly walked up. "Are my eyes playing tricks on me?" The two maids looked at each other for a long time. Their faces were full of disbelief. When they rubbed their eyes and looked again, they saw that the familiar figure was already standing outside the hall. That's right. This person was Qin Feiyang. He stood outside the door and looked at his mother's back. His eyes couldn't help but warm up. At the same time, the woman in white also noticed the reaction of the two maids. She looked at the two of them in confusion and asked with a smile, "Who is it that made you so surprised?" "It's," the two maids pointed at Qin Feiyang outside the door and stammered, unable to say a complete sentence for a long time. The more the woman in white looked, the more curious she became, so she turned to look outside the door. Immediately, the smile on her face froze. "Mother," Qin Feiyang called softly, tears flowing down uncontrollably. Hearing this familiar call, the woman in white trembled and slowly got up. She looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze, feeling as if she was dreaming. "Mother, I'm back." Qin Feiyang muttered softly as he walked towards his mother. Even when Qin Feiyang walked in front of her, the white-clothed woman still hadn't come back to her senses. "Wait." Suddenly, the two maids seemed to have thought of something. They stepped in front of the white-clothed woman and looked at Qin Feiyang vigilantly. Qin Feiyang was stunned. What did he mean? The white-clothed woman finally regained her senses and looked at the two of them in confusion. Your Majesty, His Majesty went to the Forgotten Continent. He shouldn't have returned so quickly. Furthermore, even if your Highness returns, the invincible Black Army guarding the Butterfly Valley will definitely stop your Highness and immediately report it to Her Majesty. But now, there's no movement from the Imperial Palace at all. So we suspect that he's an impostor. Qin Feiyang was quite surprised by the two maids' logical analysis. He didn't expect that the two maids by his mother's side were so smart. Of course. He definitely wouldn't be angry because of this. Because the reason why these two maids were so vigilant was for his mother's safety. In other words, these two maids were sincere and loyal to his mother's side. After listening to the two maids' words, the white-clothed woman's eyebrows also had a trace of vigilance. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything. He directly took out the Heaven's Eye Stone and held it in his hand. Time passed breath by breath. The Heaven's Eye Stone didn't react at all. Qin Feiyang's appearance also didn't change at all. It's really you, Feiyang. The white-clothed woman looked at the Heaven's Eye Stone and looked at Qin Feiyang's face. Her eyes couldn't help but become misty. Mother. Qin Feiyang put away the Heaven's Eye Stone and was about to dive into his mother's arms to enjoy the long-lost motherly love. But at this moment, one of the maids stretched out her hand and stopped Qin Feiyang. What else do you want? Qin Feiyang was a little annoyed. The maid took out another Heaven's Eye Stone from her Qianquan bag and handed it to Qin Feiyang, saying, I can't help but suspect that your Heaven's Eye Stone has been tampered with. So, I have to try again with my Heaven's Eye Stone. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. The joy of reuniting after a long time disappeared in an instant. He grabbed the Heaven's Eye Stone. A moment later, the Heaven's Eye Stone and his face still didn't change at all. Qin Feiyang looked at the two maids and said, Sisters, do you believe me now? The two women looked at each other. Ecstasy crawled up their faces in an instant. They hurriedly knelt on one knee and said respectfully, Greetings, Your Highness. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead, his face full of helplessness. The white-clothed woman smiled and said, Feiyang, don't blame them. They have good intentions. I know. Qin Feiyang nodded. He looked at the two maids and said with a smile, Both of you, get up. I'm no longer your Highness. Don't be so courteous to me. No. In our eyes, you've always been our 14th Highness. The two maids got up and looked at Qin Feiyang with resolute eyes. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at his mother's face. Indeed, as the commander of the Kirin army said, his mother's condition was much better than before. She looked full of energy. Come, let mother see if you've changed. The white-clothed woman grabbed Qin Feiyang's hand and sat by the wooden table. She carefully looked at Qin Feiyang from head to toe. Qin Feiyang remained silent with a smile on his face. A moment later, the white-clothed woman smiled and said, You've changed. You've become more mature, more steady, and more charming. There should be many girls who like you. Mother, Qin Feiyang's face turned red. The two maids looked at each other and couldn't help but snicker. You're still laughing? Qin Feiyang stared at them. He had a lot of things to say to his mother, but he didn't know what to say after these two girls made fun of him. The two girls had been with the white-clothed woman for many years. They were loyal and devoted. When they saw Qin Feiyang staring at them, not only were they not afraid, they even stuck out their tongues at Qin Feiyang. They looked quite cute. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly. Your Highness, when did you come back? Why is there no movement at all? Yeah, isn't it strange? Did your Highness bribe the invincible Black Army in Butterfly Valley? The two girls asked curiously. Yeah, Feiyang, what's going on? The white-clothed woman also thought of this and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and said, how can I bribe them? However, I can still kill them. Kill them? I heard that the invincible Black Army isn't the only one guarding Butterfly Valley. There's also a deputy commander of the invincible Black Army. He is a 9-star battle saint. The two maids were bewildered. So what if he's a 9-star battle saint? Qin Feiyang sneered. The two maids held their breaths. Aren't these words too domineering? The white-clothed woman was slightly taken aback. Then, she carefully sized up Qin Feiyang's cultivation. Her eyes suddenly lit up and said, you've broken through to 4-star battle saint? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. So fast. Your Highness is indeed the #1 monstrous genius of the great Qin Empire. The two maids were shocked and their eyes were filled with admiration. However, one of the maids quickly said, that's not right. Even if your Highness is a 4-star battle saint, it's impossible for you to kill a 9-star battle saint. I say, why do you have so many questions? Can't you let me get along with my mother? Qin Feiyang was angry. Aren't we just happy? Since your Highness is impatient, we won't ask anymore. The two maids smiled embarrassedly and retreated behind the white-clothed woman. Then, they kept quiet. Qin Feiyang was extremely helpless. He looked at the white-clothed woman and asked in confusion, Mother, isn't it forbidden to bring maids into the Amethyst Palace? Why are they here? We have to thank the commander of the Kirin army for this. Yes, he's a good person. The two maids spoke again. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang frowned. When Her Highness was sent to the Amethyst Palace, we also wanted to come with her. After all, Her Highness has treated us like family all these years. We couldn't bear to part with her. But His Majesty didn't allow it. He said that the people of the Cold Palace didn't need maids to serve them. Later, the commander of the Kirin army came to visit Her Highness. Seeing that Her Highness was too lonely and bored here, he went to His Majesty to plead for Her Highness. After several pleas, His Majesty finally agreed to let us come over to accompany Her Highness. The two maids sighed. Hearing these words, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but clench his fists. As the saying goes, a day together as husband and wife means endless devotion for the rest of your life. Was there a need to go so far? Not even 2 maidservants. All right, it's all in the past. Don't mention it again. The white-clothed woman waved her hand and smiled. Looking at Qin Feiyang, she said, Tell me, what have you been doing in the Forgotten Continent for the past half a year? Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Suppressing the anger in his heart, he recounted his experiences during this period without holding back. The white-clothed woman was shocked to hear it. Her heart ached and she was proud. Her heart ached because in just a few months, he had experienced so many hardships. Her pride was because Qin Feiyang was able to survive under the pursuit of so many powerhouses. Just this ability alone was enough to leave anyone in the dust. It's all Mother's fault for not being able to give you a peaceful environment, causing you to encounter so many setbacks at such a young age. She blamed herself. No. I have never blamed Mother, nor do I have the right to blame Mother. On the contrary, I hate myself. Why am I so weak that I have to get permission from others to stay by my mother's side? Qin Feiyang lowered his head, his hands tightly clenched together. Looking at Qin Feiyang's pained expression, the two maids' hearts ached and tears flowed down. The white-clothed woman couldn't help but feel sad. Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at the three of them. Releasing his hands, he smiled and said, It's not easy to meet Mother. Let's not talk about these unhappy things. Yes, let's not talk about it. The white-clothed woman nodded, then looked at the two maids, pointed at the pastries on the table, and said with a smile, Go steam these pastries and let Feiyang have a taste. Pastries? At this time, Qin Feiyang noticed that there were all kinds of pastries on the table. He asked suspiciously, "Mother, you're the only one here. Why did you make so many pastries?" One of the maids said, "Her Majesty made these especially for you." "For me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and said in surprise, "Mother knew that I would come back today." "No." The white-clothed woman shook her head. Qin Feiyang was stunned and even more puzzled. "She didn't know, but she made so many." "Your Highness, you don't know, but ever since you left, Her Majesty has been making these pastries every day. Because Her Majesty didn't know when you would come back. She just hoped that you could eat the pastries she made the moment you came back so that you could feel the warmth of home." Chapter 1140. Every day, Qin Feiyang trembled both physically and mentally as he looked at the woman in white. The woman in white smiled and said, "Now that you've grown up, there's nothing I can do for you. I can only do these for you. These are enough." Qin Feiyang nodded hard. His voice was sobbing as he tried to control the emotions that were about to collapse in his heart. Although this was just a small matter. Anyone could do it once in a while. But day after day, year after year, he believed that no one in the world could do it except his great mother. Every single one of these pastries represented her longing and motherly love. Glancing at Qin Feiyang, the two maids didn't say anything. They silently cleaned up the pastries on the table, feeling sad. Qin Feiyang and the woman in white were also silent. The atmosphere in the hall seemed a little heavy. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang gritted his teeth and looked at the woman in white, saying, "Mother, come with me." The woman in white was stunned. She shook her head and was about to speak. Qin Feiyang said again, "I know Mother has her difficulties and can't leave the capital, but it's okay to leave for a while, right? I just want to live with Mother alone for a while, even if it's only for a month or even half a month." The woman in white lowered her head and didn't say anything. Alas! At this time, a sigh sounded. Then, the commander of the Kirin army walked into the hall and looked at the woman in white, saying, "Your Majesty, if you just leave for a month or so, it shouldn't be a problem." Qin Feiyang, the woman in white, and the two maids immediately looked up at the commander of the Kirin army. The commander of the Kirin army said, "His Majesty and the state preceptor won't come here unless something important happens. So as long as we don't say anything, no one will know that you've left. I'll try my best to hold them back and not let them come here while you're away. But what if they find out? Not only you will be implicated, but they will also be held accountable." The woman in white said, "Your Majesty, we're not afraid." The two maids immediately said in unison. The commander of the Kirin army smiled and said, "I'm not afraid. At worst, I'll be dismissed." The woman in white shook her head. She looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Feiyang, I also want to go out with you and have a look. However, I have already killed Qin Zhong and Qin Yi. I can't implicate them anymore. Can you understand?" Qin Feiyang closed his eyes and nodded painfully, "I understand." Empress, the two maids still wanted to say something. However, the white-clothed woman frowned and shouted, "Don't forget who you are." The two maids turned pale and didn't dare to persuade him again. They took the pastries and left. Although the white-clothed woman was very amiable right now, once she got angry, let alone these maids, even the civil and military officials would be afraid. The Qilin army commander sighed deeply and didn't say anything more. He turned around and left silently. The woman in white looked at Qin Feiyang guiltily and said with a smile, "Child, can you forgive your mother?" "Mother, you're too serious." Qin Feiyang squeezed out a stiff smile and asked, "By the way, how is the little prince now?" The woman in white smiled and said, "Your father cares about him and takes care of him. Of course, he's very good." Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up and said angrily, "He's not my father." The woman in white smile froze. Qin Feiyang immediately realized that he had lost his composure. He quickly lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry, mother. I shouldn't be angry at you, it's okay. The woman in white waved her hand, but her eyes were a little sad. When would the grudge between this father and son be resolved? After a while. The two maids returned with 2 plates of piping hot pastries. The woman in white grabbed a piece of pastry and handed it to Qin Feiyang. She smiled and said, "Eat some." Qin Feiyang nodded and took a bite. Suddenly, his eyes were filled with tears. It still tasted the same as when he was young. "Eat more if you like it." The woman in white smiled. "Okay." Qin Feiyang held back his collapsing emotions. He picked up the jade plate and stuffed the pastries into his mouth one by one. His mouth couldn't hold them all. He didn't know what to say. But he knew that he had to finish these pastries. Because these were made for him by his mother. It was his mother's love for him. When the 2 maids saw this scene, they silently shed tears. They felt injustice for Qin Feiyang. He was such a good prince. Why did the emperor treat him so ruthlessly? He didn't want much. He just wanted to be with his mother. And in the world, which child didn't want to be with his mother? However, the emperor wanted to deprive her of even this. She had to meet him secretly. That was too cruel. The 2 plates of pastries were wolfed down by Qin Feiyang just like that. He put down the jade plate, wiped the tears on his face, got up, looked at the woman in white and said, "Mother, I'm leaving." "So soon?" The woman in white was a little caught off guard. "I have something important to do," Qin Feiyang said. The woman in white got up and said, "Well, you have to take good care of yourself outside. Don't tire yourself out." "I know." Qin Feiyang nodded, turned to the 2 maids, bowed, and said, "I'll have to trouble you 2 to take good care of my mother in the future." "We will." The 2 maids nodded. Qin Feiyang knelt on the ground. After kowtowing to his mother 3 times, he got up resolutely and quickly disappeared from the sight of the 3. His Highness doesn't have anything important to do. He doesn't want to stay any longer. One of the maids sighed. Yes. His Highness's love for Her Highness is deep in his bones. He's afraid that the longer he stays, the more reluctant he will be to leave Her Highness. The other maid sighed in a low voice. Hearing the 2 maids' words, the woman in white trembled and murmured, "Feiyang, I'm sorry," back to Qin Feiyang. He walked down the stairs silently. Just as the 2 maids said, he didn't want to stay any longer. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he would be reluctant to leave his mother. Now, as long as he knew that his mother was well, he could rest assured. "Why did you come down so quickly?" The commander of the Kirin army stood in the center of the hall and asked Qin Feiyang. But when he saw the tears on Qin Feiyang's face, he regretted asking that. Qin Feiyang didn't answer him. He said, "Help me keep an eye out. I don't want my mother to be hurt again." After saying that, he opened a teleportation door. The commander of the Kirin army nodded and asked, "What's your next plan?" "I don't know." Qin Feiyang shook his head. His eyes were full of confusion. Then, he walked into the portal without looking back. The next moment, he appeared beside the burly man, put on the armor of the invincible Black Army, and changed his appearance. Then, he said lightly, "Let's go." "Okay." The burly man nodded. About 100 breaths later, the 2 of them arrived in the sky above the Butterfly Valley again. Qin Feiyang took off his armor and looked down. The corpses of the invincible Black Army soldiers who died in the hands of Yan Wei were still there. However, Wang Hong was nowhere to be seen. He should have returned to the city. "Can you help me remove the slave seal now?" The burly man looked at Qin Feiyang's back and asked anxiously. Qin Feiyang didn't answer. With a thought, he erased the burly man's soul. The burly man didn't even have the chance to scream before he fell down. The world is so big. Where should I go now? Qin Feiyang looked at the sky and muttered to himself. Then, He stepped into the air and gradually disappeared into the vast sky. Now, he was completely lost, he didn't know what to do. He even doubted whether everything he had done and persevered for all these years had any meaning. Next, he was just like a walking corpse, walking aimlessly. He went to the city. He saw Luo Qianxue, Mermaid Princess, Lu Yun, Lin Yi, Yan Nanshan, Yin Yuanming. He visited everyone who was related to him one by one. He even visited his former opponents or some people who were not close to him, such as Huang San, who was a passerby in his life. However, he didn't show up, nor did he greet them. He hid his cultivation and disguised himself as a stranger. He stood in the crowd and looked at them from afar. He didn't know why he did this. He just felt empty in his heart. What did he want to fill? Next, he went to Yen City and Black Bear City. There were many acquaintances in these two places, such as Elder One of the Martial Arts Hall, the beautiful woman Ji Shui, and Li Ji. There was also the Ling family, which was Ling Yunfei's clansman. There was also the Jiang family, which was Jiang Jingyi's clansman. He also went to see Luo Qingzhu's cousin, Jiang Wei. This person was an out-and-out playboy back then. However, after being taught a lesson by him, he restrained himself. After all these years, Jiang Wei's previous bad habits had been completely changed. He had become a good young man that everyone praised. His cultivation had also improved a lot. He was now a 9-star battle monarch. 9-star battle monarch was naturally incomparable to Qin Feiyang. However, in the entire Yan County, he was considered one of the best among the younger generation. However, Qin Feiyang still didn't greet anyone. He walked silently on the street like a loner. Finally, he returned to Iron Ox Town. Inside a simple and crude tea house, Qin Feiyang was wearing a set of shabby linen clothes. He was sitting by a window, drinking bitter tea while scanning the streets outside. Iron Ox Town hadn't changed much over the years. Most people were still very simple and amiable. However, due to Lin Chang's death, the former Lin family had long since fallen from grace and had declined significantly. The Zhao family was still there. The Zhao family was Zhao Shuang's family. However, the Zhao family wasn't like the Lin family. Under the leadership of Zhao Shuang's grandfather, the current Zhao family was several times stronger than before. Excluding the Martial Arts Hall and Dan Hall, it was already the strongest overlord of Iron Ox Town. Zhao family, Zhao Shuang, if Zhao Shuang, didn't die, perhaps the Zhao family today would be even stronger. Qin Feiyang whispered. Back then in the Swallow Pan mountain range, the scene of Fengling Air, Zhao Shuang, Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, and Jiang Jingyi being killed by Zuoan and the others was still vivid in his mind. If everyone didn't die, aside from Jiang Jingyi, with the talent of Luo Qingzhu and the others, they would probably be the same as Lin Yi, the pride of the state capital. Sigh, Qin Feiyang sighed, took out a few gold coins, put them on the table, got up, and left Iron Ox Town. In the end, he returned to the place where he had lived with Uncle Yuan for 5 years. Over the years, this place had already changed beyond recognition. Even the burned wooden building had been covered by vegetation. However, although everything no longer existed, and Uncle Yuan had left without a trace, Qin Feiyang's heart calmed down as soon as he came here. Although I was born in the imperial capital and my mother is also in the imperial capital, this is my home. Chapter 1141. After that, Qin Feiyang did not go anywhere else. It took him 3 days to build a courtyard. He also built an artificial lake in front of the courtyard. From then on, Qin Feiyang stayed here. During the day, he fished by the lake. At night, he cultivated in the courtyard. He had 3 meals a day, rain or shine. His empty heart became more and more full with each passing day as he lived such a peaceful life. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Boom! That night, his cultivation level broke through to a 5-star battle saint. However, the breakthrough did not disturb his peaceful life. Everything was still the same as before. He was like a hermit who lived in seclusion in the forest. He did not pay attention to the outside world and lived an ordinary life. One day, in the morning, a burly man in golden armor landed in the sky above Butterfly Valley. Where is he? Looking at the dead silent Butterfly Valley, the burly man in golden armor could not help but frown. Suddenly, he fixed his gaze on a certain spot below. There were hundreds of corpses lying on the ground and there were signs of decomposition. What happened? The burly man in golden armor was in disbelief. Where is Wang Hong? Suddenly, he raised his head and roared. His voice was as loud as a bell and pierced through the clouds. Swish! Soon, Wang Hong appeared in the sky above Butterfly Valley. Looking at the corpses below, his expression changed. The burly man in golden armor looked at Wang Hong and asked gloomily, "What happened?" "I don't know." Wang Hong shook his head. Hundreds of invincible Black Army soldiers were killed, including a deputy commander. "You tell me that you don't know?" The burly man in golden armor was furious. Wang Hong's body trembled. He quickly said, "I really don't know. I have been in the city all this time and have never been to Butterfly Valley." The burly man in golden armor looked at Wang Hong carefully. Seeing that Wang Hong was not lying, he asked, "You didn't hear anything?" "No." Wang Hong shook his head again. In fact, he happened to be in Butterfly Valley at that time. If he denied it now, it was obvious that he was protecting Qin Feiyang. This is strange. Who has the ability to kill these invincible Black Army soldiers silently? The golden-armored man furrowed his brows. Wang Hong nodded and said, "It is indeed very strange. The deputy commander is a 9-star battle saint. To be able to kill him silently, this person's strength should be, speaking of which." Both of their eyes trembled as they exclaimed in unison, "Battle the Arch." The golden-armored man's face darkened as he asked in surprise, "Could it be that Qin Feiyang has returned?" "Qin Feiyang?" Wang Hong was startled, then shook his head. "I don't think it's him, because he's a very smart person. It's impossible for him to come back and die. Furthermore, with his cultivation, it's impossible for him to break through to the War King so quickly." "That makes sense. But it's too strange for someone to die in Butterfly Valley. I'll return to the imperial capital immediately and report this matter. You should bring some people to investigate as well. See if there are any suspicious people in the city recently. If there is, no matter who it is, act first and report later." A cold light flashed in the golden-armored man's eyes, and then he rushed toward the teleportation altar in the secret chamber below. "Farewell, my lord." Wang Hong bowed to see him off. After the golden-armored man disappeared, Wang Hong looked up at the sky and murmured, "It seems that the spiritual state is about to change." Then, he opened a portal and left. Noon. The golden-armored man descended on the Butterfly Valley again. But this time, he wasn't alone, he was followed by a large group of invincible Black Army soldiers. At a glance, there were at least 1,000 people. Each of them was emitting a murderous aura. The golden-armored man yelled, "Divide into 10 teams of 100 people each. Start from the imperial capital and start a thorough search. Bring back all the people and beasts above the War Saint level." "Understood." The invincible Black Army soldiers roared and scattered, disappearing in all directions like lightning. Meanwhile, in the godly palace of the imperial capital, in a certain alchemy room, a white-clothed young man sat cross-legged with his eyes closed, meditating. Dong! Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. The white-clothed young man opened his eyes and looked at the stone door. "Come in." The stone door opened, and a red-haired man in his 20s walked into the cultivation room. He cupped his hands and said, "Greetings, master." "What's the matter?" the white-clothed young man asked. The red-haired man said, "I just received news that the invincible Black Army soldiers guarding the Butterfly Valley were all killed, including the deputy commander." "What?" The white-clothed young man stood up with shock in his eyes. The red-haired man said, "Master, do you think he came back?" "You mean Qin Feiyang?" the white-clothed young man asked. "Those invincible Black Army soldiers are very powerful. No one in the spiritual state can kill them. Besides, who doesn't know the name of the invincible Black Army in the Empire of Great Qin? Ordinary people don't dare to touch them. Most importantly, this happened in the Butterfly Valley. So, only Qin Feiyang could do it." The red-haired man said. "That makes sense." The white-clothed young man nodded. "I also found out that the dead vice-commander made a trip back to the imperial capital 3 months ago. Soon after, he left again." The red-haired man said. "He went back to the imperial capital." The white-clothed young man's eyes flashed as he asked, "How long has it been since the invincible Black Army soldiers died in the Butterfly Valley?" The red-haired man said, "I'm not sure. But I heard that the corpses were rotten. If I remember correctly, the weakest invincible Black Army soldiers guarding the Butterfly Valley was a 1-star battle saint. It would take at least 2 to 3 months for the corpses to rot. Based on this, the deputy commander should have died not long after he returned to the Butterfly Valley. It seems that the murderer is most likely Qin Feiyang." The white-clothed young man's eyes flashed. "What should we do now?" the red-haired man asked. The white-clothed young man waved his hand and said, "Don't worry about this. I will arrange it. You just need to investigate the movements of the Emperor and the others." "Yes. Then, I will take my leave." The red-haired man bowed to the white-clothed young man and turned to leave the alchemy room. "Qin Feiyang, ever since your bloodline power reverted to its ancestral state, I have been waiting for you to come back. Now, you have finally come back. I really want to know what kind of expression you will have when you find out my other identity," the white-clothed young man murmured. Before he could finish his sentence, he disappeared without a trace. 1 day. 3 days. 5 days. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Thousands of invincible Black Army soldiers had entered the Yan and Pan counties. Because these 2 counties were under the jurisdiction of the spiritual state. The arrival of the invincible Black Army caused the people of these 2 counties to be in a constant state of panic. In the past, they didn't know what the invincible Black Army was. But over the years, the invincible Black Army had been stationed in the imperial capital. 1 person told 10, and 10 told 100, and everyone knew about it. Therefore, when a large number of invincible Black Army soldiers appeared, everyone was in danger. However, Qin Feiyang didn't know about all this, and he didn't want to know. But it didn't mean that he didn't expect it. In fact, he had expected all of this. Because even if Wang Hong didn't report it to the imperial capital, the people in the imperial capital would find out sooner or later. It was just a matter of time. However, even if he expected it, he wasn't worried at all. He would deal with whatever came his way. Some things couldn't be avoided even if you wanted to. The most important thing was that he didn't want to think about these problems now. He just wanted to settle down quietly for a while. Another few days passed. In the morning. As usual, Qin Feiyang woke up from his cultivation early in the morning and sat by the lake to fish quietly. The sun rose, and the golden sunlight spread over the lake. A gentle breeze blew from the mountain stream in the distance, and the lake sparkled. Everything was so quiet and peaceful. Boom! Suddenly, Qin Feiyang sensed from afar that dozens of powerful auras appeared in the sky above the Iron Bull town. Each of these auras contained a terrifying saint aura. "They're here. He muttered to himself without any expression on his face. He didn't even look up in the direction of the Iron Bull town. He kept looking at the floating on the lake. In fact, there were no fish in this lake at all. Because when he built this artificial lake, he didn't put any fish in. And he sat by the lake every day fishing, not really fishing, but cultivating his body and mind. In other words, he wasn't fishing for fish, but for mind. But he knew that he didn't have much time here. Because everyone in the Iron Bull town knew that he used to live here, and the invincible Black Army would definitely not forget to search here. "You're really here?" Suddenly, a hearty laugh sounded. This voice, Qin Feiyang frowned and looked up. He saw a young man in white appear out of thin air above the lake. Qin Feiyang couldn't be more familiar with that face. It was Lu Xingqian. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, "Why are you here?" "Why can't I be here?" Lu Xingqian asked back. He took a step forward and landed beside Qin Feiyang. "No. I mean, how did you get out of the Imperial City?" Qin Feiyang said. "One had to know. From the Imperial City to the spiritual state, one had to pass through the pagoda. And the pagoda was guarded by Elder Qin. Very few people in the world could sneak into the pagoda in front of Elder Qin." Lu Xingqian laughed. "Have you forgotten? My space divine item can move." Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Needless to say, he had really overlooked this point. Indeed, with a space divine item that could move, entering the pagoda was a very simple matter. "Then why are you looking for me? How do you know I'm here?" Qin Feiyang said. "Of course I'm here because I miss you, an old friend. As for why I know you're here, it's actually very easy to judge because you have nowhere else to go in the great Qin Empire." Lu Xingqian smiled faintly. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, and asked again, "Then how do you know I'm back?" "Speculation. But obviously, I guessed right." Lu Xingqian said. Qin Feiyang said, "What about the state preceptor and the others? Do they know I'm back?" Chapter 1142. Can you be more shameless? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. This was the first time he saw someone praise himself for being smart. Lu Xingqian chuckled and asked, "Did you kill the invincible Black Army in Butterfly Valley?" Qin Feiyang nodded. "You've been to the capital?" Lu Xingqian asked again. Qin Feiyang nodded again. Lu Xingqian said angrily, "Then why didn't you come to me? Do you still think of me as a friend? When I came back this time, I didn't see anyone except my mother." Qin Feiyang shook his head and then said, "Besides, I want to make it clear that I've never thought of you as my friend." "I'm sad to hear you say that." Lu Xingqian's face darkened. He knew very well about his relationship with Qin Feiyang, but there was no need to be so straightforward. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "I don't believe that you came all the way here just to see me. You don't have such good intentions. Let's not beat around the bush. You bastard. Well, I did come to see you because I have a few things to tell you. First of all, do you remember Ling Yu, Zhao Yu, Feng Ranran, and Luo Dan?" Lu Xingqian asked. "Of course." Qin Feiyang nodded. "They're missing." Lu Xingqian said. Qin Feiyang turned to look at him in surprise. "When you came back last time, they were still there, but when you left, they disappeared with you. I even went to Fengzhou and Yuzhou to investigate them. Do you know what I found?" Lu Xingqian said mysteriously. "What's the result?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Lu Xingqian said, "According to my investigation, although these 4 people came from Yuzhou and Fengzhou, there is no information about them in Yuzhou or Fengzhou." "Impossible," Qin Feiyang said resolutely. Yuzhou and Fengzhou were the birthplaces of the 4 of them. Moreover, the 4 of them were such monstrous geniuses. How could they not have any information about them? I also felt that this matter was very inconceivable. Thus, I carefully investigated it. In the end, I discovered that they did not have any relatives in Yu Province and Feng Province. Many people don't even know of their existence. After that, I went to Yu Province and Feng Province to investigate. Guess what? They actually entered the sacred palace the day before the 9 underworlds Yellow Springs opened. As for their identities and origins, the Holy Sanctum's records are blank. Lu Xingchen said. So, these 4 people are really mysterious? Qin Feiyang mumbled. Lu Xingchen said, secondly, I think I saw Zhang Jin in imperial capital. Zhang Jin. Qin Feiyang frowned. Why did this name sound so familiar? Don't you remember? He is Zhang Ren's younger brother. He is somewhat related to you. Lu Xingchen said. So it's him. Qin Feiyang suddenly realized. After being reminded by Lu Xingchen, he remembered that Zhang Jin used to work in the resource hall of the Holy Sanctum. His aptitude was mediocre, but his character was not bad. Later. Because of Zhang Ren's death, Zhang Jin was thoroughly disappointed in the Holy Sanctum. He carried Zhang Ren's corpse and left the Holy Sanctum. Thinking of Zhang Jin, Qin Feiyang also recalled some past events. He turned to Lu Xingchen and sneered, do you have any thoughts about Zhang Ren's death? Lu Xingchen smiled bitterly. I still remember that during the temple's great gathering, Zhang Ren had already admitted defeat, but your family member, Lu Ziyuan, still killed him. And you, the representative of the inner sanctum at that time, a proud son of heaven, not only did not deal with it impartially, you even shielded Lu Ziyuan. If not for Zhang Ren's death, Zhang Jin would not have left the Holy Sanctum in a fit of anger. Qin Feiyang mocked. It's all because of the frivolity of the past. Can you not mention it again? I'm also very ashamed and regretful now. Lu Xingchen said bitterly. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it back then? Qin Feiyang shook his head and asked, now that you see Zhang Jin appear in the imperial capital, do you feel a little flustered? To be honest, I do feel a little. But for him to appear in the imperial capital, there is clearly a problem. After all, whether it is cultivation or talent, he is not qualified to step into the imperial capital. Lu Xingchen said. There is indeed a problem. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, let's talk about other things. Lu Xingchen nodded and was about to speak. Rumble. Crack. A loud noise suddenly came from Iron Ox Town. The two hurriedly raised their heads and looked in the direction of Iron Ox Town. Their eyes were filled with surprise. The loud noise was incessant, followed by a strong wave of battle. Lu Xingchen said in a low voice, do you feel it? It's the holy aura. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, it should be the invincible Black Army that is in trouble. But in this small Iron Ox Town, is there anyone who can fight against the invincible Black Army? Let's go and take a look. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He decisively put down the fishing rod and rushed to the sky, flying towards Iron Ox Town. Lu Xingchen followed closely behind. Qin Feiyang suddenly turned his head and looked at Lu Xingchen. He did not notice before, but now he realized that Lu Xingchen's aura also carried a holy aura. 5-star battle saint. Finally. He saw Lu Xingchen's cultivation clearly, but even his jaw almost dropped. How did this person do it? One had to know. He had opened the door of potential and received the inheritance of his ancestor, causing his bloodline to revert to its ancestral state. That was why he could break through to 5-star battle saint so quickly. But Lu Xingchen actually caught up to him. This was too inconceivable. Lu Xingchen seemed to have noticed Qin Feiyang's surprise. He revealed his white teeth and smiled, didn't I tell you before? I was once a god of war. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Lu Xingchen had indeed said this before, but he did not take it to heart at that time. He thought that Lu Xingchen was just joking. But now, hearing this sentence again, he could not help but hesitate. Could it be true? Lu Xingchen pointed to the sky in front of them and said, "Don't think about it. Look at the sky above Iron Ox Town. It's very interesting." Qin Feiyang looked up suspiciously, and his eyes suddenly widened. Above Iron Ox Town, a white-clothed youth was crazily slaughtering a group of invincible Black Army soldiers. He was extremely powerful. But this was not the main point. The main point was that white-clothed youth looked exactly like him. He was practically another Qin Feiyang. Lu Xingchen asked suspiciously, "Brother Qin, is he an impostor or are you an impostor? Or are you the one who arranged this?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and said in a deep voice, "How could I arrange for someone to impersonate me? Who is this person? What's his purpose for impersonating me? That's amazing." The cultivation of those invincible Black Army soldiers were between 1-star and 4-star battle saints, but he could easily destroy them. "And I can't see through his cultivation," Lu Xingchen said. Qin Feiyang said, "Judging from his aura, he should be a 6-star battle saint. There's actually a 6-star battle saint hidden in the spiritual state." Lu Xingchen was shocked. Not good. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's expression changed. After such a terrifying battle, Iron Ox Town below would have been destroyed. He quickly looked down at Iron Ox Town. As expected, Iron Ox Town had long disappeared, leaving behind only ruins. And there was not a single living person in the ruins. Corpses were everywhere, and blood stained the ground. Damn it! Qin Feiyang cursed silently, and his speed suddenly increased. After a few breaths, he entered Iron Ox Town, landed on the broken streets, and walked all the way. Everywhere he passed, there were broken corpses and broken limbs, and the smell of blood was pungent. Why did they hurt these innocent people? Qin Feiyang gradually clenched his fists. Although he had only lived in Iron Ox Town for 5 years, he already had deep feelings for the people and things here. Moreover, most of the people living in Iron Ox Town were mortals who had no strength to truss a chicken. It was too much to not even let mortals go. In the end, he stopped in front of a dilapidated house. This was Zhao Shuanger's home. When he passed by this place on his way back, he took a few glances. Everyone had a simple smile on their faces. But now, everything was gone, and only ruins were left. Why? He walked in slowly, and corpses could be seen everywhere. Fresh blood flowed on the ground, still steaming. It was like hell, and it was a ghastly sight. Suddenly, he quickened his pace and walked to the front of an old man. The old man had white hair and was lying in a pool of blood. His body was pressed against a beam, and he was already dead. "Grandpa Zhao, I'm sorry, I'm late." Qin Feiyang squatted beside the old man, his face full of self-blame and guilt. The old man was Zhao Shuanger's grandfather. Ever since Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, Zhao Shuanger, and Feng Ling died, he did not take care of their families. For example, Ling Yunfei's mother, Lu Ji. For example, Luo Qingzhu's mother, Luo Qianxue, and Feng Ling grandfather. Although Feng Ling grandfather had died, he still remembered him in his heart. Only this old man, he had almost forgotten about him. In the past, he did not think much of it. But at this moment, when he looked at the old man's eyes and the bloody corpse, he could not help but feel regret in his heart. Why did he not think of this before? He only felt regret after losing it. Qin Feiyang slowly reached out his hand, closed the old man's eyes, and raised his head to look at the man in white and the invincible Black Army. "Today, none of you can leave." He suddenly roared and rushed to the sky with the billowing holy aura. Why is there Qin Feiyang here? The invincible Black Army, who was fighting with the man in white, had a trace of surprise in their eyes. At the same time, the man in white also looked at Qin Feiyang. He was not surprised at all. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Then, he turned around and flew away with lightning speed. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a red sword energy surged out. 40 sword energies soared into the sky, and the few remaining invincible black army were wiped out. Blood dyed the sky. Boom! Then, he pointed his index finger in the air, and a beam of battle energy blasted into the Iron Ox town below. With a loud rumble, the entire Iron Ox town collapsed into the ground and turned into a giant tomb. I will bring his head back and bury it with you. Rest in peace. Qin Feiyang whispered. Then, he used the phantom steps and chased after the man in white. Wait for me. Chapter 1143. In the Void. The man in white took a mysterious step, moving as fast as lightning. Although he seemed to be running for his life, if one looked carefully, they would find that there was not the slightest bit of panic on his face. Qin Feiyang followed closely behind. Lu Xingchen whispered, Brother Qin, he is a 6-star battle saint. His cultivation is 1 realm higher than ours, and he has mastered a perfect auxiliary battle art. I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up to him. So what if he's 1 realm higher? Qin Feiyang smiled coldly, activated the concealment art, and disappeared without a trace. Lu Xingchen was surprised. What was this guy doing in the castle? Could it be that the castle could also move? He did not know that Qin Feiyang had already mastered a battle art that could make him invisible. He only thought that Qin Feiyang had gone to the castle. At the same time, sensing that Qin Feiyang's aura had disappeared, the man in white also stopped and turned his head to look behind him suspiciously. But just as he turned his head, he felt a pain in his lower abdomen. He suddenly looked down and his expression changed. He saw a battle aura, like a sharp arrow, entering his lower abdomen at lightning speed. Blood immediately flowed out. What's going on? The man in white was bewildered. Lu Xingchen was bewildered. It was also at this moment that Qin Feiyang appeared and stood right in front of the white-clothed man. He was very close to him. Impossible. Your castle can't be moved at all. How did you do it? The man in white was shocked and angry. Qin Feiyang did not answer. He grabbed the man in white's neck and sneered, I want to see who exactly you are. How dare you pretend to be me, Qin Feiyang? After saying that, Qin Feiyang took out a facial restoration pill and stuffed it into the man in white's mouth. The man in white's face was suddenly filled with panic. Boom! But at this moment, in the forest below, a terrifying emperor aura emerged and instantly enveloped Qin Feiyang. At the same time that Qin Feiyang was imprisoned, a white light flashed out from the forest below and landed in front of Qin Feiyang like lightning. He grabbed the man in white and retreated. There's still someone else. And it's a war king. Qin Feiyang's eyebrows raised. His aura. His black hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. He forcibly broke through the emperor pressure that was imprisoning him. Then, he looked at the white off her face, but Qin Feiyang's eyes narrowed. He felt like he had seen this pair of eyes before, but he couldn't remember where. The woman in white spoke. Her voice was bone-chilling and emotionless. She was like a god of death. Then, she took Zhang Jin and left without looking back. Even the voice is familiar. Qin Feiyang muttered. With a thought, Yan Wei appeared out of thin air and said in a deep voice, take them down. Yes. Yan Wei responded with a respectful tone, as a powerful battle chi burst out from his body and sprang toward the white-shirt woman and her companion like a surging tide. There is indeed a war king hiding beside me. The woman in white's pupils shrank. She raised her slender arm and waved it in the air. Battle Chi emerged and turned into a huge wave that swept across the sky. Boom! The two waves of Battle Chi collided. Puff! Yen Wei's body trembled and he retreated. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. The woman in white's body was also trembling slightly. A mere one-star war king dares to behave atrociously in front of us. You really don't know what's good for you. Yen Wei's eyes turned cold. He executed the heavenly demon's 9 steps and charged towards the woman in white. The heavenly demon's 9 steps was not only a perfect support skill, it was also a perfect killing skill. In other words, this was a skill that was both offensive and defensive. With every step he took, his aura would increase tremendously. Even the air was trembling. At this moment, he was like a demon god descending to the world. His aura was extremely powerful. When he took the 4th step, both his speed and his aura had reached an unprecedented level. Boom! When he took the 5th step, he was like a god descending to the mortal world. He stepped on the woman in white's head. Immediately, a terrifying murderous aura enveloped the woman in white. Perfect battle skill. The woman in white's heart trembled. No matter what kind of battle skill it was a peak perfect battle skill. Boom! Whoosh! The woman in white waved her hand. Battle Chi emerged and turned into a huge wave that surged forward. This battle skill. Qin Feiyang, who was not far away, looked at the huge wave that covered the sky and the earth. His brows were tightly knitted together. The battle skill that the woman in white used was only a superior battle skill. However, it gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Boom! Yen Wei's aura shook the heavens and the earth. Looking at the huge wave, his eyes were extremely sharp. Immediately, he took the 6th step. Accompanied by a deafening loud sound, the huge wave instantly disintegrated. He was unstoppable. Puff! The woman in white spat out a mouthful of blood. However, her eyes became colder and colder. Water-long sky. She let go of the man in white and roared. Her long hair danced wildly in the air. It was as if a female demon had appeared. Her murderous aura was monstrous. Boom! Battle Chi poured out like a waterfall. Huge waves that covered the sky surged in the void above. It was as if this place had turned into a vast ocean. The destructive aura swept in all directions. Water-long sky. This is the 2nd move of the sunflower water art. Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled. The memories that had been sealed in his mind for a long time gushed out uncontrollably. How is this possible? It's actually her. His face was filled with disbelief. Humph. At the same time, Yen Wei snorted coldly. He simply and violently stomped his foot. This was the 7th step. Boom! This stomp was earth-shattering. The void distorted crazily as if it was about to crack. Several huge peaks nearby collapsed in an instant. Dust and smoke billowed and the rumbling was deafening. As for the huge wave, it was like a broken mirror. It cracked bit by bit until it finally disintegrated and dissipated between heaven and earth. Puff! The woman in white was sent flying. Blood gushed out of her mouth. Yen Wei also retreated a few steps. However, he only suffered a slight injury. After stabilizing his body, he immediately charged towards the woman in white. His aura was surging. Lu Xingchen's pupils contracted as he landed beside Qin Feiyang in a single step and said in a low voice, "This subordinate of yours is very strong." Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear. His gaze was fixed on the woman in white. He said to Yen Wei, "I want her alive." Alive? Yen Wei was stunned. Looking at Qin Feiyang's expression, he wondered if this woman was an enemy of Qin Feiyang's in the past. Understood. He nodded slightly. His hand reached out and his battle chi turned into a huge wave that surged into the sky. Boom! In the blink of an eye, a huge hand that covered the sky appeared and grabbed towards the woman in white. "You're too naive if you want to capture me like this." The woman in white sneered. She waved her hands and waves of battle chi surged into the sky. Roar! In the blink of an eye, a water dragon that was hundreds of feet long appeared. Its ferocity was unparalleled. Qin Feiyang's eyes shone brightly. He mumbled, "This is the third move of the sunflower water art, water dragon breaking the sky." Sunflower water art? Lu Xingchen was stunned. His face was filled with surprise. He stared at the woman in white and mumbled, "The sunflower water art is not her battle art." Could she be? That's right. If it's not a coincidence, then she must be the woman we know. Qin Feiyang said. The water dragon roared in the sky and pounced towards the huge hand. The huge hand that Yan Wei condensed was just a normal attack. The water dragon breaking the sky that the woman in white used was a superior battle art. Yan Wei was naturally no match for her. With a boom, the huge hand was destroyed on the spot. However, at the same time that the huge hand was destroyed, Yan Wei took the 8th step of the 9 steps of the heavenly demon. His aura was close to that of a 5-star combat emperor. The water dragon immediately shattered into pieces and turned into bubbles. "Stop struggling. When I take the 9th step, you will definitely die." Yan Wei looked down at the woman in white like a king. His divine aura was inviolable. "Then come and try." The woman in white placed her hands in front of her chest and quickly formed a seal. A destructive aura spread out. Stubborn. Yan Wei's gaze turned cold and he suddenly took the 9th step. His aura broke through the barrier and charged towards a 5-star combat emperor. The power of the 9 steps of the heavenly demon had been unleashed to the extreme. However, just as the woman in white was about to lose her life under his feet, she suddenly raised her head and a strong murderous intent burst out from her eyes. At the same time, a palm-sized mystic ice seal appeared between her hands and cold air billowed. The first style of the frost arts, ice seal. Although she shouted, the mystic ice seal broke through the air and swept into Yan Wei's feet. Yan Wei's expression changed immediately. He could clearly feel that when the mystic ice seal entered his feet, a shocking cold current suddenly swept through his entire body. His limbs began to stiffen. White snowflakes quickly appeared on his clothes, skin, and even his hair. These snowflakes emitted a terrifying cold air. In the blink of an eye, a thick layer of ice formed on his body and he became a human ice sculpture. Frost arts, Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Yan Wei and the woman in white had the same cultivation, but she was able to seal Yan Wei in ice. This was enough to prove that this so-called frost arts was also a perfect battle art, and it was also a peak perfect battle art. The woman in white looked at Yan Wei with disdain and turned to Qin Feiyang, saying, "I believe you have already guessed who I am." "Dong Qing." Qin Feiyang said. The woman in white sneered, "That's right, it's me. Are you surprised?" Qin Feiyang was silent. Lu Xingchen looked at Qin Feiyang and asked Dong Qing, "Where have you been all these years?" He. Dong Qing laughed crazily. She took off her mask and revealed a face as beautiful as a flower. Dong Qing was once the pride of the inner palace. Her appearance was not bad, and it was not an exaggeration to say that she was peerless. But right now, her face was filled with hostility and hatred. She looked at Lu Xingchen and said, "I went to hell, but I was not satisfied, so I came back from hell." Chapter 1144. "I'm afraid you don't have the ability," Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Back then, he wasn't afraid of Dong Qing, and now, he was even more afraid. However, Dong Qing's current cultivation made it hard for him to accept. He clearly remembered that Dong Qing had only broken through to the 6-star War Emperor when they fought in the temple's great gathering. At that time, his cultivation had also broken through to the 3-star War Emperor. All these years, he relied on the Gate of Potential and the purple gold dragon blood to barely break through to the 5-star War Saint. But Dong Qing had already stepped into the 1-star War Emperor realm. He wouldn't believe that Dong Qing's talent was better than his. Because he knew how Dong Qing's talent was. But how did she do it? Even if she opened all the gates of potential, it couldn't be so fast. Lu Xingqian's breakthrough to the 5-star War Saint had already shocked him, but now Dong Qing's cultivation was even more unbelievable. You're no longer the Qin Feiyang from back then, and I'm no longer the Dong Qing from back then. It's still hard to say who will win now. Get ready to pay your debt. Dong Qing smiled coldly and her hands began to form seals again. A destructive aura rolled out from between her hands. Boom! However, at this time, an even more terrifying aura erupted. Qin Feiyang, Lu Xingqian, and the white-clothed woman all turned to look at Yan Wei. The aura came from Yan Wei, who was trapped in the ice sculpture. What's going on? The white-clothed woman was bewildered. Rumble. Yan Wei's aura became stronger and stronger, surging in all directions with earth-shattering momentum. The void and earth here began to tremble. Boom! Suddenly, the aura that erupted from Yan Wei actually broke through the shackles of the 1-star War Master and climbed to the 2-star War Master. He actually broke through at this time. The white-clothed woman and her companion were dumbfounded. Gotcha! Suddenly, a crack appeared on the ice sculpture. As soon as this crack appeared, a chain reaction occurred, and tear marks continued to appear. In less than 3 breaths, the entire ice sculpture was full of cracks, as if it was covered with a layer of spider web. Not good. The white-clothed woman's expression changed. She turned around and dived in front of the white-clothed man. She grabbed the white-clothed man, opened a teleportation door, and entered it without looking back. Qin Feiyang, if you want to know why we're pretending to be you, then come to the ruins. The portal quickly disappeared. Dong Qing's voice echoed in the air for a long time. From the beginning to the end, Qin Feiyang didn't try to stop Dong Qing because he couldn't stop her now. Land of Ruins, his eyes flashed slightly, and then he looked at Yan Wei again. Crack. Finally. Yan Wei broke out of the ice, his aura shaking the clouds. Congratulations. Qin Feiyang smiled. The stronger Yan Wei was, the more help it would be to him. Yan Wei rubbed his head and smiled innocently. He said apologetically, I'm sorry. I was too careless and couldn't make them stay. I'm fine. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and his eyes flickered. Lu Xingqian frowned. Brother Qin, why did Dong Qing ask you to go to the ruins? What kind of place is the ruins? Yan Wei didn't understand. Qin Feiyang said, the ruins is a place where not even a blade of grass grows. It's also a place of no return. A place of no return. Yan Wei's eyes trembled, and he said in surprise, isn't that a place of death? Qin Feiyang nodded. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's a place of death, but it's not a problem for me. I've been there twice, but I can't figure out why they want to lead me to the ruins. Lu Xingqian asked in surprise, could it be that there are still secrets hidden in the ruins? Secret, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly. No matter what the secret is, I have to go and see it. No. Dong Qing and the others clearly came prepared. If you go now, won't you fall into their trap? I think it's better to take the long view. Lu Xingqian advised. We can't guess what their purpose is. Only by going to the ruins can we find out the truth. As for you, there's no need to take the risk with me. Go back to the imperial capital to avoid being discovered and arousing suspicion. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Xingqian and said. Lu Xingchen pondered for a moment and nodded with a smile. Well, take care of yourself. When you come to the imperial capital next time, remember to come and find me. Let's go to the fragrant moon brothel for a few drinks. Qin Feiyang nodded. Goodbye. Lu Xingchen cupped his hands and said. Then he nodded and smiled at Yan Wei. He opened the portal and walked in. After Lu Xingchen left, Yan Wei whispered. This Lu Xingchen is not simple. You'd better be careful. Qin Feiyang was surprised and asked curiously. How is he not simple? Yan Wei shook his head. I can't say. It's just a feeling. Every time I look at him, I always feel like he's covered with a veil. He's unfathomable. You're right. Although I've known him for many years, I still can't see through him. Moreover, he's related to the Mu family of the Forgotten Continent. Qin Feiyang said. What? Yan Wei was stunned. What kind of existence is the Mu family? They're actually related to the Mu family? After a few months of recuperation, it's time to stretch my muscles. The ruins, I'd like to see what's waiting for me. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. He opened a portal and stepped into it. Yan Wei took a deep breath and followed. Whoosh! Whoosh! The ruins. In the canyon, the wind was still howling, and the black tornado was roaring wantonly. The iron chain bridge above the canyon was rusty and swaying in the wind. No one knew how long it had been there. Whoosh! As soon as Qin Feiyang appeared, he glanced at the iron chain bridge. He saw a man and a woman standing on the opposite side of the iron chain bridge. It was Dong Qing. They've already gone over. Yan Wei whispered. He looked at the storm in the canyon and frowned. That black storm actually gave him a great sense of danger. Go down. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and landed on the bridge. Then, without any hesitation, he stepped on the iron chain bridge. Yan Wei followed closely behind him, not daring to be the least bit distracted. The wind was howling, and the iron chain bridge kept swaying. It was like the sound of the Grim Reaper. Yan Wei looked down and frowned. What's under the canyon? Everything. People, beasts, jungles, glaciers, deserts, seas of fire, and so on. It's like an underground world. Qin Feiyang said. Yan Wei was surprised. It can't be. Even I don't dare to touch these black tornadoes. How did they survive? Qin Feiyang said, there's no storm under the canyon. I see. Yan Wei nodded. After a while, the two walked to the middle of the iron chain bridge. Standing there, they could clearly see Dong Qing and Yan Wei. The two stood side by side on the opposite side, looking at Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei with cold eyes. Suddenly, Dong Qing waved her hand, and a red sword appeared out of thin air. Yan Wei was stunned and quickly shouted, What do you want to do? Send you to hell. Dong Qing smiled coldly. She grabbed the red sword and slashed at the iron chain. Damn it! Yan Wei's face changed greatly. Don't panic. Although this iron chain bridge is rusty, it's very strong. Not to mention ordinary sharp weapons, I'm afraid even a sacred weapon may not be able to cut it. Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, Yan Wei couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. But as soon as he finished speaking, Dong Qing's sword slashed at the iron chain, and a loud clanging sound rang out. Sparks flew in all directions, and the iron chain was actually cut apart. What? Qin Feiyang turned pale with fright. What level of sword was that? It was so sharp. But there was no time to look carefully. The iron chain broke, and the iron chain bridge shook violently. Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei, who were standing on the bridge, suddenly lost their balance. However, The two of them were quick with their hands and quickly grabbed the other side of the iron chain to stabilize their bodies. How is it? Are you desperate now? Dong Qing grabbed the sword and looked at Qin Feiyang with sarcasm in her eyes. Desperate? Even if you cut off all the iron chains, you won't be a threat to me. Qin Feiyang's face was full of disdain. Then let's have a try. Dong Qing's eyes flashed. She raised the sword in her hand and slashed down with all her strength. Clang! In a burst of fire, all the iron chains were broken in an instant. The iron chain bridge immediately descended towards the canyon below, and the gravity that permeated the air above the canyon immediately surged towards the two of them. His life was hanging by a thread. Yan Wei couldn't help but panic. Grab me! Qin Feiyang shouted without looking back. He was calm and steady. Yan Wei quivered and immediately reached out to grab Qin Feiyang's shoulder. At the same time, Qin Feiyang's mind moved, and a rib appeared. When the originally dim rib bone came into contact with the surging gravity, it immediately blossomed with resplendent divine light. In an instant, the gravity disappeared. The black hurricane was also isolated by the divine light. Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei stood in the sky above the canyon. The divine bone shone brightly like a full moon, shining in all directions. Dong Qing frowned. But suddenly, she smiled again and gave Qin Feiyang a thumbs up from afar. She said, "Impressive. It seems like this is what you rely on to enter the ruins repeatedly. However, the real show is yet to come. If you have the ability, continue to chase after me." After that, she waved her hand and took the man in white to the depths of the ruins like lightning. The real show. Don't let me down. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself and shouted, "Let's go." Yan Wei nodded and swept up Qin Feiyang. They turned into a ray of light and flew to the other side. This woman must be brewing some conspiracy. We must be careful. In front of absolute strength, no matter what conspiracy, it is like withered branches and withered leaves. It will be annihilated with a snap of the fingers. Qin Feiyang said. Yan Wei had already broken through to a 2-star combat emperor. In addition, he had 2 perfect battle arts. It was more than enough to deal with Dong Qing. As for the red battle sword in Dong Qing's hand, even if it was a divine weapon, he was not afraid. Because he also had a divine weapon. This divine weapon was Chang Shui. Chapter 1145. Entering the ruins, Qin Feiyang put away the ribs and looked back at the canyon. Without the iron chain bridge, the ruins would become a real cage in the future. No one would be able to enter, and no one would be able to leave. However, since Dong Qing dared to cut off the iron chain bridge, she should have some confidence. But what was her confidence? Was it the battle sword in her hand? Whoosh! The two moved as fast as lightning. Soon, Qin Feiyang saw a village. Qin Feiyang had a deep impression of this village. Because when he first entered the ruins, he came here and gave the villagers a lot of food. One of the children, in order to thank him, gave him a bamboo tube. However, the water in the bamboo tube was poisonous. But at that time, Qin Feiyang did not pursue it. Because he couldn't bear it. But at this moment, corpses were everywhere. Blood flowed on the ground, soaking the mountains and rivers. What's going on? Yan Wei was surprised. Qin Feiyang walked to a corpse, looked at it seriously, and said in a deep voice, "It died not long ago. It should be killed by Dong Qing. Why did they do that? What's the benefit of killing these innocent people?" Yan Wei said angrily. "I don't know. However, for these people, death may be the best relief." Qin Feiyang sighed. At that time, if it weren't for the old man's permission, he would have destroyed this place full of darkness and cruelty. Yan Wei glanced at the desolate land and fell silent. Indeed, it was better to die than to live in such a place. Let's go. Qin Feiyang said. Yan Wei calmed down, looked ahead and frowned. They have disappeared. How can we catch up? Qin Feiyang waved his hand and called out, Wolf King, lead the way. Wolf King sniffed hard and said, straight ahead. Yan Wei immediately rushed forward with a man and a wolf. Stop. But not long after, Wolf King suddenly shouted again. What happened? Yan Wei stopped in the void of space and looked at it suspiciously. Wolf King said, something's wrong. There's the smell of blood in the air on both the left and right. It can't be. Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei looked at each other in bewilderment. Absolutely. Wolf King said with certainty. Yan Wei asked, did they split up? Something's wrong. Their scent is indeed heading straight ahead. Wolf King said. Yan Wei said, if they went straight ahead, then where did the bloody smell on the left and right come from? I don't understand either. Wolf King shook his head. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He looked at Yan Wei and said, let's split up and take a look. We'll meet here later. Okay. Yan Wei nodded, turned around, and quickly disappeared to the left. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King rushed to the right. 100 breaths later. Another village came into the sight of a man and a wolf, but the ground was also full of floating corpses, and the ground was dyed dark red. The strong smell of blood was nauseating. Wolf King ran to a corpse, only to see a fatal wound on the throat of the corpse. But the blood had solidified. Obviously, the corpse had been dead for a long time. It looked up at the other corpses and found at the time of death and the fatal wound were exactly the same as the corpse in front of it. How could this be? Wolf King muttered to himself and returned to Qin Feiyang's side, saying, these people's faces are twisted and ferocious, and there's still fear in their eyes before they died. They should have seen something terrible when they were alive, and have been dead for a long time. It shouldn't be Dong Qing's doing. If it's not Dong Qing, who could it be? Qin Feiyang's brows were tightly knitted. I've carefully smelled the residual smell here, but the smell of blood here is too strong, and I can't catch the scent of the murderer. But there's still a smell of blood in the air ahead. Wolf King said in a deep voice. Lead the way. Qin Feiyang said. Wolf King immediately ran forward. After a while, they saw another village, with hundreds of corpses lying on the ground. There was a fatal wound on the throat, and the blood had solidified and seeped into the ground. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands, turned to look at Wolf King, and asked, still can't catch the scent of the murderer. Wolf King shook his head. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with killing intent, and with a wave of his hand, the ground was suddenly torn apart, and the whole village was buried under the ground. Then he said, let's go and meet up with Yan Wei. After a while, Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei met up. Qin Feiyang asked, how's the situation? I've found a total of 6 villages, but all the people in the villages are dead, and no one is alive. I suspect that the people here should have been killed. Yan Wei said. The Wolf King asked, then do they all have a fatal wound on their throats? That's right. According to my observation, they all died from blood loss. Yan Wei nodded. Wolf King said, how long have they been dead? Yan Wei thought for a moment, and said, the blood has solidified, it should be 2 or 3 days ago. Wolf King said, we saw the same situation as you. Damn bastard, who is so cruel? Yan Wei was furious. Generally speaking, people with the cultivation of him and Qin Feiyang, even if all the people in the ruins were killed, they would not blink an eye. It was not that they were indifferent, but that they had long been used to it. Moreover, their hands were stained with blood, so they were not qualified to scold others. But the people here were all bleeding to death because their throats were cut. This was obviously intentional. For an ordinary person, death was not terrible. After all, they only had a short lifespan of a few decades. But such a way of dying was torture. If this person is not crazy, then there must be some purpose. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Yan Wei said with hatred, "What purpose can there be? He must have gone crazy." Qin Feiyang said, "We can't judge too early. Let's continue to track." Yan Wei nodded, and led Wolf King and Qin Feiyang, turned into a stream of light, and exposed themselves in front. On the way, they did not encounter many villages, but without exception, all of them had suffered misfortune. Along the way, they did not find a single survivor. Time passed breath by breath. Half an hour later, a dilapidated ancient city in the distance entered the sight of 2 people and 1 wolf. On the city gate, there were 3 ancient words engraved. "Wohu City." Wolf King said, "We're back again." "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. When they first came to the ruins, they also came to Wohu City and made a big scene in the city. But now Wohu City was even more dilapidated than before. As far as the eye could see, the city walls were full of holes. The buildings in the city were also dilapidated. Coupled with the dim sky, from afar, it looked like a gloomy ghost city. There was no one guarding the city gate, and it looked incomparably deserted. I really didn't expect that such a backward place would exist in the prosperous and glorious Great Qin Empire. Yan Wei took a deep look, turned to Qin Feiyang, and asked, "How long has this place existed?" According to the ancient records, the ruins already existed at the beginning of the Great Qin Empire. So the ruins should be left behind by the previous dynasty, Heavenly Sun Empire. It has been at least 10,000 years since then. Qin Feiyang said. So long. Yan Wei frowned, and said, "The people living here are really pitiful." Not necessarily. Many people here used to be subjects of the 9 states and 18 counties, but because they committed many evil deeds, they were hunted down and had nowhere to go, so they fled here. Only those who were born here are really pitiful. Wolf King said. Yan Wei looked at Qin Feiyang, and said, "I really don't understand why the emperors of the Great Qin Empire would allow such a place to exist for so many years. I used to be very puzzled, but when I met a person, I realized that there were many powerful saint beasts sealed here. Unless it was a last resort, the ruins should not be destroyed." Qin Feiyang said. This person was naturally referring to Renduxing. "Who is it?" Yan Wei said. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "It's a long story. We might meet him this time. When we meet, I'll introduce him to you." "Okay." Yan Wei nodded. While talking, the 2 men and 1 wolf were getting closer and closer to Wohu City. Suddenly, Wolf King's pupils shrank, and he exclaimed, "There's the smell of blood." The smell of blood. Could it be that the people of Wohu City have also met with misfortune? Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei looked at each other and immediately sped up. What a strong smell of blood! The closer they got, the heavier Wolf King's gaze became. Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei also smelled the smell of blood. More than 10 breaths later, they finally landed on the city wall and scanned the scene in the city. Their eyes were filled with shock. The entire Wohu City was littered with corpses. There was not a single person. Blood flowed on the ground like a stream. The bloody scene was like an Azura hell. It was terrifying. Yan Wei said, "The blood hasn't coagulated yet. It should be Dong Qing's doing." "Why? Why would she do that?" Qin Feiyang clenched his hands tightly together. Wolf King's eyes suddenly trembled, and he said in surprise, "No, didn't you notice a very serious problem?" "What problem?" The 2 looked at her in surprise. Old Yen is now a 2-star battle ancestor, 1 small realm higher than Dong Qing. And although Dong Qing has mastered a perfect auxiliary battle art, Old Yen is also using the Demon 9 steps to bring us along. Moreover, it will take her time to kill these people. Logically speaking, we should have caught up with her long ago. But until now, we haven't even seen her shadow. Wolf King said. That's right. Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei suddenly came to a realization. What was going on? Yan Wei seemed to have thought of something. His body trembled slightly, and he said, could it be that she has mastered a divine art? Divine art. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King's eyes narrowed. Wolf King shook his head and said, it shouldn't be. The divine art is not a cabbage. How could she have it? I would rather believe that she had hidden her cultivation before. It seems that we can't underestimate this woman. Qin Feiyang's face was gloomy. Chapter 1146. Let's go. Wolf King shouted. Today, no matter what, they must find Dong Qing and get rid of her. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble. On the following journey, the 2 men and 1 wolf did not delay at all. Even if they encountered towns and villages that were massacred, they did not stop at all. At noon, they finally arrived at the royal city in the land of ruins. However, the originally bustling royal city was dead silent at this moment. Millions of corpses were lying in the city. Blood dyed the land within a radius of hundreds of miles. In the void, a bloody mist filled the air, and the smell of blood was pungent. And the way they died was the same as the people in other places, their throats were cut. Those pairs of eyes were wide open, full of fear and despair. You animals, get out of here. Yan Wei roared. There were many people who had died in his hands, but he had never tortured anyone like Dong Qing. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King's eyes were gloomy to the extreme. They stood at a commanding height and had a panoramic view of the entire royal city, but except for the corpses on the ground, they did not see anyone else. There was no trace of Dong Qing and the man in white. Qin Feiyang looked down at Wolf King and asked, are you sure they came to the royal city? I'm sure. Wolf King nodded. Qin Feiyang glanced at the royal city and said gloomily, then they must be hiding somewhere. While speaking, with a thought, Lu Hong and the others appeared one after another. Looking at the bloody purgatory-like scene in front of them, everyone's face could not help but turn pale. Qin Feiyang shouted, find them, even if you turn the land of ruins upside down, find them for me. Understood. Lu Hong nodded. Everyone immediately scattered in all directions. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, wait. What? Everyone stopped and looked back at him suspiciously. Dong Qing hates me to the bone. If she is really hiding in the dark, she will definitely not let you go. Viper and Dan Wangkai stay here, the rest go to the castle. Qin Feiyang said. All right. Lu Hong, Fatso, and the double-winged snow eagle looked at each other and returned to Qin Feiyang helplessly. Although they all wanted to help, they had no choice. Qin Feiyang was telling the truth. Once they split up and were ambushed by Dong Qing, given their cultivation bases, they would be dead for sure. Death was not a big deal. What worried him the most was that Dong Qing would use them to threaten Qin Feiyang instead of killing them. In this way, they wouldn't be helping Qin Feiyang, they would be dragging him down. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent everyone to the castle. Then, he looked at Yan Wei, Dan Wangkai, and Viper and reminded them, be careful. Then, he raised his arm and pointed his index finger in the air. Battle chi gushed out and condensed into Dong Qing's illusory figure. Because Dan Wangkai and Viper had been in the castle, they did not know what Dong Qing looked like. After remembering Dong Qing's appearance, Dan Wangkai and Viper and Yan Wei turned around and each went in a direction, starting a carpet search. Yan Wei did not say anything. A 2-star combat emperor was enough to protect himself. Dan Wangkai was now a 1-star combat emperor, so protecting himself was not a problem. As for Viper, although he was still a 9-star combat saint, he had mastered all kinds of perfect occupation and forbidden techniques. It was no exaggeration to say that he had the ability to kill a 1-star combat emperor. So, even if Dong Qing hit her cultivation base or mastered a divine art, it would not be a problem to delay for a while. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and looked at Wolf King, frowning. Can you smell them now? There is no other way. Wolf King shook his head. This place was full of the smell of blood. Even if Dong Qing stood behind it, it would not be able to smell Dong Qing. Let's go look for them too. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Time passed by bit. About an hour later, Qin Feiyang and Wolf King returned to the center of Monarch City. But Yan Wei and the other two had not returned yet. They waited quietly. Another hour passed. Whoosh! Accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air, the three of them returned one after another. How is it? Qin Feiyang asked. I didn't find anything. Yan Wei shook his head. Me too. Dan Wangkai said. Same. Viper followed. Wolf King immediately flew into a rage and roared, I don't believe that they will disappear from the face of the earth. Qin Feiyang glanced at it, lowered his head and fell into deep thought. Suddenly, his face was full of surprise as he looked at Wolf King and said, Did they go to the canyon below? Wolf King said, There are storms all around the canyon, how did they go down? Qin Feiyang thought, since Dong Qing dared to cut off the iron chain bridge, it means that she must have something to rely on. Suddenly, a firm light flashed in his eyes, and he said, Let's go to the canyon to take a look. Feiyang? Why are you here? However, just as Qin Feiyang and the others were about to leave for the canyon, a strange voice sounded in the sky. Who is it? Yan Wei and the other two immediately looked up, looking extremely vigilant. This voice, Qin Feiyang and Wolf King were stunned, and a trace of joy climbed up their faces as they quickly looked up. Immediately, they saw a middle-aged man standing in the sky. The middle-aged man was about 1.8 meters tall, neither fat nor thin, wearing a black robe, and his face was weather-beaten. White hair could be clearly seen on his temples, full of vicissitudes of life. And the most eye-catching thing was between the middle-aged man's eyebrows. There was a crescent-shaped mark between his eyebrows. Uncle Ren. Qin Feiyang affectionately called out. That's right. This man was Ren Wushuang's father, Ren Duxing. Swish. Ren Duxing glanced at Yan Wei and the other two, and with a flash, landed in front of Qin Feiyang and Wolf King, and said with a smile, Long time no see. Wolf King laughed, It has been a long time, how is it? Did you miss us? Of course. Ren Duxing rubbed Wolf King's head lovingly. Young master, he is. At this time, Viper and the other two walked over and looked at Ren Duxing suspiciously. Young master. Hearing how Viper addressed Qin Feiyang, Ren Duxing was also quite surprised. Qin Feiyang waved at Viper and the other two and smiled, Come, let me introduce you. This is Ren Duxing, a very amazing person. Viper and the other two were stunned, and the curiosity in their eyes was even stronger. They all knew what kind of person Qin Feiyang was. Ordinary people could not enter his eyes at all. However, at this moment, he actually said that the person in front of them was a very amazing person, and his words were full of respect, which was a bit unbelievable. At the same time, hearing Qin Feiyang's introduction, Ren Duxing smiled helplessly, looked at Qin Feiyang and shook his head, What amazing person, it's not as exaggerated as you said. Exaggerated? I have never admired anyone in my life, except for Uncle Ren. Qin Feiyang said. The more you say, the more ridiculous it is. Ren Duxing rolled his eyes and said, Aren't you going to introduce them? Qin Feiyang patted his head and smiled, Look at my brain, I forgot when I was happy. Uncle Ren, they are all friends I made in Forgotten Continent. Nice to meet you three. Ren Duxing cupped his hands and smiled. Nice to meet you. Viper and the other two also cupped their hands and returned the greeting with smiles on their faces. However, what made them so happy was not because they got to know Ren Duxing. It was because when Qin Feiyang introduced them to Ren Duxing, he called them friends. Although it was just a title, they felt very comfortable in their hearts. Because this meant that Qin Feiyang did not treat them as subordinates. After a simple greeting, Ren Duxing frowned and glanced at the corpses in Royal City. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Feiyang, Uncle Ren knows that you have long had the idea of destroying the ruins, but isn't it too cruel for you to do this? Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. Wait. You don't think that we killed these people, do you? Wolf King said. Who else here besides you? Ren Duxing asked. Faced with Ren Duxing's question, Wolf King was speechless for a moment. Because if it was him, he would also have the same suspicion. After all, they were the only ones here. Qin Feiyang sighed, Uncle Ren, these people were not killed by us. No. Ren Duxing frowned and said, then who was it? Dong Qing. Qin Feiyang said. Dong Qing. Ren Duxing was slightly stunned and said in surprise, are you talking about the little girl of the Dong family? That's her. Qin Feiyang nodded. How is this possible? Although I left the city a long time ago, I have seen her when she was a child. With my understanding of her, it should be impossible for her to do such a thing. Ren Duxing found it a little hard to accept. People change. In short, now she has lost her mind. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with killing intent. Seeing that Qin Feiyang did not show any sign of lying, Ren Duxing's face darkened slightly and asked, what the hell is going on? Quick, tell me the details. Qin Feiyang nodded. He told her everything that had happened in Iron Bull Town and the ruins. After listening, Ren Duxing sighed incessantly. He shook his head and sighed, I really didn't expect that the innocent and lively little girl back then would actually turn into such a person. It's really as the saying goes, the affairs of the world are unpredictable. After saying that, Ren Duxing asked again, what about the old man and Schwanger? Are they all right now? Qin Feiyang hesitated and said, the old man also went to the imperial capital. Everything is fine for now. For now. Ren Duxing was stunned. He frowned and asked, did something happen? Qin Feiyang lowered his head and hesitated. Ren Duxing said with a smile, you don't have to worry about anything, tell me the truth. All right. Actually, I am the son of the current emperor. Because of me, the old man and my sister were somewhat implicated, but it has been solved now. Qin Feiyang said truthfully, his face full of self-blame. The son of the current emperor. Ren Duxing looked at Qin Feiyang with a dumbfounded expression. Qin Feiyang nodded, then smiled bitterly and said, but for some reason, not only have I broken away from the relationship of father and son, but also to the point where you die and I die. In short, since I entered the imperial capital, a lot of things have happened, and I can't finish it in a short time. Ren Duxing patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, although I don't know what you have experienced all these years, I firmly believe that there is no obstacle in this world that cannot be overcome. I believe it too. Chapter 1147. Ren Duxing smiled and said, so this time you entered the ruins mainly to chase after Dong Qing and the person who impersonated you? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked suspiciously, why did Uncle Ren come to Tortoise City? I also smelled the blood, so I came up to have a look. But I didn't expect that such a cruel thing would happen. Ren Duxing said. He hated evil as if it were his enemy. Yen Wei said, it's the first time I've seen such a cruel person in my life. But I don't know where they are hiding now. Qin Feiyang suddenly thought of something. He looked at Ren Duxing and asked, Uncle Ren, have you been in the canyon below all the time? Yes. Ren Duxing nodded. Qin Feiyang said, then did you see them enter the canyon? No. Ren Duxing shook his head and said, but with the source of power, should be able to sense their aura. You can sense it? Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned and then overjoyed. Wait a moment. Ren Duxing said and closed his eyes. Qin Feiyang and the others could clearly sense that an obscure force, with Ren Duxing as the center, was spreading in all directions. Time passed breath by breath. About 100 breaths. Ren Duxing opened his eyes and there was a trace of confusion between his eyebrows. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang asked. Ren Duxing said, I did sense two strange auras in the canyon below, but, speaking of this. Ren Duxing frowned. But what? They looked at him in surprise. Ren Duxing said, it seems that something is blocking my search and I can't sense their location. This, Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other. Wolf King suddenly said, is it because of Dong Qing's sword? It's possible. That sword can even cut through the iron chain bridge. It's definitely not an ordinary sword. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. This was even more troublesome. He had been to the canyon below with Lu Xingchen before, so he knew how big it was. If he couldn't pinpoint Dong Qing's current location, then finding them would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, then looked at Ren Duxing and said, Uncle Ren, take us to the canyon. No. Ren Duxing shook his head. Why? Qin Feiyang frowned. Ren Duxing said, do you still remember that I told you before that the 4 great sacred beasts are sealed below? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, I was the one who released the sacred monkey. What I want to talk about is the sacred monkey. In the past, when it was first released, it was only a battle saint, but now, it's already a battle emperor. Ren Duxing said. So fast. Qin Feiyang was surprised. Not fast at all. That's because it was originally a demigod vicious beast. It was only because it had sealed itself all these years that its cultivation fell to battle saint. And for an existence like it that sealed itself, when it breaks out, it doesn't need to start from scratch. As long as it absorbs enough essence, its cultivation will advance by leaps and bounds. Ren Duxing said. A demigod beast, Qin Feiyang and the others were dumbfounded. This was too shocking. Ren Duxing said, the 4 great sacred beasts of the Grand Canyon used to be Mu Tianyang's 4 great sacred beasts. Each of them has unparalleled combat strength, and they're not something you can deal with now. Qin Feiyang asked, what about the other 3 great sacred beasts? Ren Duxing said, the other 3 great sacred beasts are the sacred python, sacred eagle, and sacred lion. They're still sealed. Qin Feiyang said, in other words, they're only battle saints now. Yes. Ren Duxing nodded. Qin Feiyang said, then let's do it this way. Before they wake up, let's get rid of them first. That's what I think too. There's also that sacred monkey. If we don't think of a way to get rid of it now, we'll have no chance when its cultivation gets stronger. Wolf King said. Ren Duxing was stunned and said in surprise, are you confident in getting rid of the sacred monkey? Qin Feiyang asked, what's the sacred monkey's cultivation level now? Ren Duxing shook his head and said, I'm not sure. In short, it's very strong. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, and sneered, although it's no longer the sacred monkey of the past, I'm no longer the Qin Feiyang of the past. As long as its cultivation hasn't recovered to its peak state, I'm confident in getting rid of it. That's good. These 4 great sacred beasts have always been a big problem for me. In the past, I've thought of getting rid of them while they're sealing themselves, but those 4 great sacred beast emperors are protecting them at all times with countless fierce beasts. Although my strength is getting stronger day by day, they're also getting stronger. I can't find a chance at all. In the end, it's still because my cultivation is too weak and too incompetent. If it weren't for the fact that I've obtained Mu Tianyang's inheritance, I'm afraid I would have died in their hands. Ren Duxing sighed. Qin Feiyang secretly let out a long sigh. Frankly speaking, Ren Duxing suffered more than anyone else in the world, but he was also more noble than anyone else. In order to protect the thousands of creatures in the spiritual state, he had been guarding this place. He couldn't even visit his biological daughter and father. Who could compare to this kind of responsibility and breadth of mind? The Wolf King asked, after we eliminate the 4 great sacred beasts, will you be able to leave the ruins? Yes. After eliminating them, I can destroy the source of power and leave this place. But not only do we have to eliminate the 4 great sacred beasts, but we also have to kill the 4 great sacred beasts guarding them and the other fierce beasts in the Grand Canyon. Ren Duxing said. Qin Feiyang nodded. He had experienced the 4 great sacred beast emperors and other fierce beasts before, and they were ferocious by nature. If they were allowed to escape, the spiritual state would definitely be plunged into misery and suffering. No. Not only the spiritual state, but the 18 counties in the 9 states would probably face a life-and-death catastrophe. This is no small matter. Are you really confident? Ren Duxing asked again. Qin Feiyang nodded heavily. Ren Duxing gritted his teeth and said, Okay, I'll take you to the Grand Canyon now, but don't alert the sacred monkey first. Let's get rid of the sacred eagle and the others without anyone knowing. No problem. Qin Feiyang smiled and turned to Wolf King and Viper, saying, You guys go to the castle first and be prepared for battle at any time. Understood. The 2 men and 1 wolf nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent the 2 men and 1 wolf to the castle. Then, he looked at Ren Duxing and said, We can move now. Ren Duxing took a deep breath, and a cold light flashed in his eyes as he said, Let's go to the sacred lion's nest first. With a wave of his sleeve, he swept up Qin Feiyang and Yen Wei and rushed towards the Grand Canyon. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang said, Uncle Ren, there's a question that I can't figure out. Since the sacred monkey has already broken out of the seal, why didn't it help the other 3 sacred beasts break out of the seal? Ren Duxing shook his head, I'm not sure either, maybe it's not the right time. At this time, Yen Wei said again, I also have a question in my heart. Please speak. Ren Duxing said. Yen Wei said, What exactly is the source of power that you're talking about? It's very complicated. I'll explain it to you simply. The storm in the canyon, as well as the gravity, all come from the source of power. In other words, the source of power is equivalent to a control mechanism. Ren Duxing laughed. Yen Wei said, So you're saying that if you control the source of power, you can control those storms and gravity? Yes. Ren Duxing nodded. That's strange. Yen Wei frowned. What's strange? Ren Duxing did not understand. Qin Feiyang also looked at him suspiciously. Since you can control those storms and gravity, why don't you just use those storms and gravity to kill them? Even I am afraid of the destructive power of the storm and gravity. It should be very easy to get rid of them. Yen Wei said. Qin Feiyang was startled for a moment, then suddenly said, That's right, Uncle Ren, why don't you do that? If I could do that, I would have done it a long time ago. Ren Duxing laughed bitterly. What's the reason? Qin Feiyang and Ren Duxing did not understand. Ren Duxing said, Cultivation. Cultivation. Qin Feiyang and Ren Duxing looked at Ren Duxing suspiciously. If they didn't look, they wouldn't know. However, what scared them wasn't how high Ren Duxing's cultivation was. On the contrary, Ren Duxing's cultivation was lower than they had imagined. He was only a mere 5-star war master. Ren Duxing laughed, Feiyang, are you very disappointed? Qin Feiyang laughed bitterly. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't disappointed. He remembered that when he saw Renduxing in the past, the impression that Renduxing gave him was that other than being great, he was also unfathomable. But he didn't expect him to be so weak. Renduxing shook his head and laughed. It's not that I'm too weak, it's that you've grown too quickly. If you were still the War Emperor, I would still be unfathomable in front of you. Qin Feiyang laughed bitterly. This was the truth. Let's get back to the main topic. Although I have control of the source of power, due to my cultivation, I am unable to truly control the gravity and storm. I can only travel through the gravity and storm at will. Renduxing said. So it's like that. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. But then, he suddenly frowned and said, that's not right. When my sister and I left the ruins, you seem to have controlled the storm to intercept us. Yes. But that wasn't actually control. I used my battle chi to push those storms in front of you. Renduxing laughed. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. Yan Wei said, since this source of power is so terrifying, can we not destroy it? That's right. If we can take it away, it will definitely become a great killing weapon. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. You're too greedy. There are some things that we can't get just because we want them. Furthermore, I'm not interested in anything else right now. I just want to leave this place and reunite with Shuang and the old man. Renduxing said. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists and said in a low voice, believe me, I will, and it won't be long. Of course I believe you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought you down. Renduxing laughed. During the conversation, the three of them had arrived at the top of the canyon. Without a moment's delay, Renduxing took Qin Feiyang and the other two and turned into a stream of light, directly entering the storm in the canyon. The storm full of destructive aura whistled around them, but it didn't cause them any harm. How magical! Yan Wei's eyes lit up. Chapter 1148. With Renduxing around, there was no danger in the storm. Very smoothly, the three of them passed through the storm and descended into the canyon below. A sea of fire entered their line of sight. Looking around, as far as the eye could see, it was all raging flames. This place was like a big furnace, even Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei could feel the burning sensation. It's really an underground world. Yan Wei looked at all this with a dumbfounded expression, feeling as if he was dreaming. That's not right. However, Renduxing scanned the sea of fire, his eyes full of surprise. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang asked. Renduxing said, there were originally many fire dragon lions here, but why can't I see even one now? Qin Feiyang was stunned, and hurriedly lowered his head to look at the sea of fire. He was not unfamiliar with this place, because he and Lu Xingqian had been here before. Indeed, as Renduxing said, there were many fire dragon lions here. But now, looking around, other than the burning flames, there was not even a ghost. It was dead silent. I have an ominous premonition. Come with me quickly. Renduxing's face was as calm as water, turning into a stream of light and rushing forward. Qin Feiyang and Yan Wei looked at each other and hurriedly followed. Very quickly, a mountain peak entered the sight of the three. The mountain was not high, about 100 feet, but in the flat sea of fire, it was extremely eye-catching. The mountain peak was crimson red, surrounded by flames. From afar, it looked like it was made of magma. Whoosh! Renduxing led Qin Feiyang and the other two and landed directly on the mountain peak. The mountain peak was as flat as a mirror, as if it was cut by an axe, and in the middle of the mountain peak, there was a tunnel entrance. Renduxing walked quickly to the entrance of the tunnel, and said in a deep voice, that Saint Lion is sealed below, but, speaking of which. Renduxing raised his head and scanned the mountain peak, the uneasiness on his face growing stronger. But what? Qin Feiyang frowned. The Lion King of the Guardian Sacred Lions usually guards this entrance. But now, not only have the other fire dragon lions disappeared, even the Lion King is gone. I can't help but suspect that something might have happened while I was away. Ren Duxing said. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said, You mean, before you went to Royal City, everything was normal here? Yes. Ren Duxing nodded. Qin Feiyang's face darkened as he shouted, Quickly go down and take a look. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, Yan Wei swept up the two of them and rushed into the tunnel like lightning. Inside the tunnel, heat waves surged. Not long after, Qin Feiyang and the other two were sweating profusely. But as they went deeper, the heat waves gradually disappeared and were replaced by a trace of coolness. However, gradually, the coolness turned into coldness, and the temperature underground became lower and lower. After going down for an unknown number of meters, the three of them finally arrived in front of an ice cave. Inside the ice cave, cold air lingered, and the cold current was bone-chilling. The three of them stepped into the ice cave and were immediately dumbfounded, only to see that there was nothing in the huge ice cave. But in the middle of the ice cave, there was a pile of broken ice. Looking at the pile of ice, Ren Duxing's face instantly became gloomy to the extreme, and said, Sure enough, something happened, the Saint Lion has been unsealed. So the Saint Lion was frozen here. And those broken pieces of ice were the ice that sealed it. It must be Dong Qing. Yan Wei said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with killing intent as he looked at Ren Duxing and said, Quickly sense if there are any changes in the other areas. Okay. Ren Duxing nodded and closed his eyes. Yan Wei glanced at Ren Duxing, walked to Qin Feiyang's side, and asked in a low voice, How many areas are there here? 4. Forest, Sea of Fire, Glacier, Desert. The fierce beast in the forest is the black stone ape. The fierce beast in the Sea of Fire is the fire dragon lion. The fierce beast in the glacier is the snow eagle. And the fierce beast in the desert is the flying sand python. Qin Feiyang said. Yan Wei was stunned, and asked puzzledly, These fierce beasts are not rare, but why are you all so surprised? It's indeed nothing in the Forgotten Continent, but in the great Qin Empire, it's very rare. Maybe it's because of the battle that year, these fierce beasts went extinct. Qin Feiyang guessed. Which battle? Yan Wei was curious. Qin Feiyang said, The battle between my ancestor and the previous emperor Mu Tianyang, although I have not seen it with my own eyes, and there are no clear records in the history books, but I can imagine how terrifying the battle between the two gods of war is. Moreover, to overthrow an empire, it's inevitable that people will be plunged into misery and suffering. Yan Wei nodded his head in realization. Not good. At this time, Ren Duxing opened his eyes, and his eyebrows were full of worry. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Ren Duxing said, I can't sense the situation in the canyon now. What is blocking all of this? Don't worry. With the storm and gravity, even if Dong Qing wants to take them out of the canyon, it will take a long time. Let's quickly go to other areas. Qin Feiyang comforted. Okay. Ren Duxing nodded. Qin Feiyang shouted, Yan Wei. Yan Wei understood and slapped upward. The battle chi was like a dragon, roaring in all directions. With a loud bang, the whole mountain was instantly turned into ashes. Whoosh! The three of them immediately rushed to the next area. There was no one in the glacier. The snow eagles living in the glacier had all disappeared. In the ice cave where the sacred eagle was sealed, there was no trace of the sacred eagle, only a pile of broken ice. Then they went to the desert again. It was the same here. There was not a single ghost. It was like a land of death where not even a blade of grass grew. Qin Feiyang said, They are not in the three major areas, so they must be in the area of the sacred monkey. Jungle? Yen Wei murmured. Sure enough. When the three of them flew to the edge of the desert, they immediately saw groups of beasts gathering in the sky above the jungle. Fire dragon lion. Black stone ape. Flying sand python. Snow eagle. They were all here. They filled the entire void, and there were countless of them. As for their strength, there were weak martial masters and strong battle saints. The leaders were the 4 beast emperors. The Monkey King had 5 heads, each as big as a wash basin. 5 pairs of eyes, like copper bells, emitted a terrifying murderous light. The last time I was here, the Monkey King only had 4 heads. Qin Feiyang stood above the edge of the desert and looked at the Monkey King. The 4-headed Monkey King had the cultivation of a battle master, and the 5-headed Monkey King was a battle saint. And he also had a deep impression of this Monkey King. At that time, he and Lu Xingqian almost died in the hands of this Monkey King. He looked at the Sand Python King, Eagle King, and Lion King. He was no stranger to these 3 beast emperors. Although they are not strong, if they escape from the ruins and enter the spiritual state, there will definitely be rivers of blood. Yen Wei said. Ren Duxing said, yes, we must keep them all. Qin Feiyang nodded. But suddenly, he frowned. Although the 4 beast emperors and the beasts of the 4 major regions were here, he didn't find Dong Qing and Lu Xingqian, nor the 4 saint beasts among these beasts. Strange, where did they go? Qin Feiyang murmured. Ren Duxing also quickly noticed this, and his face was full of surprise. Gradually, the 3 of them found a very strange situation. They were above the edge of the desert without any concealment, but those beasts didn't seem to notice them, and they were all looking at the opposite cliff. Including the 4 beast emperors. What's the situation? The 3 of them looked at each other. One must know. They didn't hide their aura. These beasts should have noticed them before they got close, but why didn't they react at all? They are all looking over there, is there a deeper meaning? Qin Feiyang followed the gaze of those beasts. However, except for the cliffs, bushes, and weeds, he didn't see anything. No. Ren Duxing's eyes suddenly trembled. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Ren Duxing pointed to a place halfway up the mountain and said, look over there, isn't there a cave entrance? Qin Feiyang and Yen Wei looked over, and there was a trace of surprise in their eyes. On the cliff, there was indeed a cave entrance. It was dark inside, but the cave entrance was very small, and there was a bush in front of it, so they didn't notice it before. Furthermore, the marks on the cave entrance were new. It was obvious that it had just been excavated. Not good. Suddenly, Ren Duxing's face changed. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang and Lu Xingqian were shocked. Ren Duxing said, I know where Dong Qing and Lu Xingqian and the 4 saint beasts went. Where? The 2 of them quickly asked. Follow me. Ren Duxing shouted. It's too late to find out now. However, at this moment, the Monkey King and the other beast emperors suddenly turned their heads and stared at Qin Feiyang and the other 2. The other ferocious beasts also looked at the 3 of them in unison, their eyes filled with ferocity. Ren Duxing's eyes trembled, looking at the 4 beast emperors, and said in a deep voice, they really went in? Yes. The source of power has trapped us for so long, of course we have to destroy it before we leave. The Monkey King smiled coldly. What? They want to destroy the source of power? Qin Feiyang was shocked and quickly looked at the cave entrance and asked, Uncle Ren, is the source of power not with you? No. Ren Duxing shook his head. Qin Feiyang was shocked, haven't you already mastered it? Why don't you carry it with you? Him. The Monkey King smiled disdainfully and said, what kind of divine object is the source of power? With his strength, even if he has mastered it, he can't take it away. He can only destroy it. I won't let you succeed. Ren Duxing was furious. Is that so? Now that we are all gathered here, a mouthful of saliva from each of us is enough to drown you. How are you going to fight us? The Monkey King said contemptuously. So what if there are more of us? Yen Wei took a step forward, and a terrifying emperor's aura poured out from his body like a volcanic eruption. The Monkey King grinned and said, I know you're a combat emperor, but it's useless. Clang! Before his voice faded away, a shocking sword chi swept out from the desert below, rolling up yellow sand and slashing toward Qin Feiyang and the other two. Be careful! Yen Wei shouted. He pushed Qin Feiyang and the other two away with a palm and then used the Sky Demon 9 steps. In an instant, he took 9 steps. His aura soared to that of a 6-star combat emperor. Chapter 1149. However, not only was the sword chi not destroyed, but Yen Wei's leg and thigh were also torn into pieces by the sword chi. Fresh blood flowed out. Hiss! That heart-wrenching pain made Yen Wei suck in a breath of cold air. His face also showed a look of panic. The destructive power of this sword chi was several times more terrifying than he had imagined. If this continued, even his body would be torn into pieces by the sword chi. In the nick of time, he hurriedly flashed to the side and dodged the fatal blow. It can't be. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang and Ren Duxing who were not far away were dumbfounded. A 2-star combat emperor's cultivation with the perfect 9 steps of the heavenly demon couldn't block a sword chi. Who exactly was it? So terrifying. You're really lucky. At this moment, a bone-chilling voice sounded from the desert below. Boom! Following closely, a white-clothed woman rushed out from the ground, causing a sandstorm to fill the sky. She landed in front of Qin Feiyang and the other two. It's you. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. That's right. This person was Dong Qing. He originally thought that Dong Qing had followed the 4 sacred beasts to destroy the source of power. He didn't expect her to be hiding here. Yen Wei consumed a healing pill and a regeneration pill. He stood in front of Qin Feiyang and shouted, You two go and stop the 4 sacred beasts. I'll stay here and delay her. You. No. Dong Qing raised her arm and shook her index finger. Her face was full of contempt. In her other hand, she was holding a crimson sword, which was extremely sharp. Yen Wei glanced at the red battle sword and said coldly, No matter what level of weapon you have in your hand, don't think of getting past me. You're overestimating yourself. Dong Qing smiled disdainfully and took a step towards Yen Wei. Her red battle sword buzzed and emitted a terrifying sword light. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. He took out a rib and threw it to Yen Wei. Don't go all out. Just delay her. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand and swept up Ren Duxing before flashing towards the entrance of the cave. Is he really okay? Ren Duxing was bewildered. Don't worry. Qin Feiyang said. Even if there was a problem, they could only let Yen Wei stay. After all, only Yen Wei had the ability to contend with Dong Qing. At the same time, Yen Wei grabbed his ribs and rushed towards Dong Qing without hesitation. In an instant, the rib bone and the red sword collided in the air. Clang! A metallic sound exploded, resounding through the heavens and earth. A destructive aura spread out in all directions with the two as the center. The Monkey King and the other Beast Emperor's pupils shrank. They hurriedly led their subjects and fled without looking back. But even so, many beasts were still affected and died. Their blood splashed across the sky. For a moment, the place was filled with thunderous roars. At the same time, after the collision, Yen Wei and Dong Qing retreated several feet, their faces pale. Dong Qing immediately raised her eyebrows. This rib bone could compete with the battle sword in her hand. Yan Wei also lowered his head to look at his ribs. However, there was only a white mark on his ribs. Suddenly, his confidence skyrocketed. Swish! He looked up at Dong Qing and said, "The real battle begins now." He took the 9 steps of the heavenly demon again. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and his aura pierced through the sky. He was like a god of war descending to the world. Dong Qing looked up at Qin Feiyang and Ren Duxing. Seeing that the two had rushed into the cave, she immediately frowned. "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." She suddenly withdrew her gaze and stared at Yan Wei. Her cold eyes were like a poisonous snake, making one's scalp tingle. Clang! Crack! Rumble! A fierce battle began immediately. The two fought in the desert and the jungle. The sky was dark and the earth was dark, and the wind was strong. At the same time, using the phantom steps, Qin Feiyang brought Ren Duxing into a dark and gloomy passageway at lightning speed. Ren Duxing said anxiously, "Feiyang, before we get rid of them, we can't let them destroy the source of power." "I understand." Qin Feiyang's eyes were hazy. He asked, "How far is the source of power from here?" Ren Duxing said, "Not far. With your current speed, you'll arrive soon." Boom! But as soon as he finished speaking, a deafening sound came from the depths of the passage. The ground suddenly trembled violently. "Oh no, they've already started." Ren Duxing's expression changed. Qin Feiyang was also anxious. Suddenly, a cold light burst out from his eyes. With a thought, Viper and Wolf King appeared out of thin air. He shouted, "Go out immediately and kill all those descendants." As long as they killed those descendants outside, even if the source of power was destroyed by the 4 sacred beasts, it wouldn't affect them much. Understood. Wolf King and Viper looked at each other. Murderous aura immediately surrounded them as they turned and rushed out. Qin Feiyang also led Ren Duxing and continued to fly into the depths. "Little poisonous snake, your brother's blood is already boiling. Don't fight with your brother later." The Wolf King's domineering voice reverberated through the tunnel. "Don't worry, Brother Wolf. I'll support you with all my strength. I guarantee that you'll have fun killing. But don't forget to take care of your little brother in the future." Viper's flattering voice also sounded. "You're quite sensible. Your brother likes it." Wolf King laughed and warned again, "But later, you have to be careful of the winged sand python's venom. Little Qin Zi almost died under that venom." "Is that so? Then I'll give it a try." Viper's tone was full of disdain. "Say, who do you think is stronger between the two of them? Is there a need to say? It's definitely Dong Qing. He, when Dong Qing kills him, Qin Feiyang will no longer have an expert to protect him. At that time, this emperor will definitely torture him. Yes. He must pay back the debt he owed in the past 100 times. Monkey King and the other 3 sacred beast emperors stood in the distance. Looking at the battle between Dong Qing and Yan Wei, they sneered again and again. They didn't realize that the god of death had arrived. "Haha, ants, your brother is here. Quickly kneel down and worship." Suddenly, a wild laughter resounded through the sky. Wolf King rushed out of the passage like a bolt of lightning. After glancing at Yan Wei and Dong Qing, he rushed toward Monkey King and the other 3 sacred beast emperors. Viper followed closely beside him. His skin, long hair, and even his eyes had turned green. He was like an evil spirit with poisonous gas soaring into the sky. Seeing a man and a wolf, Monkey King and the other 3 sacred beast emperors' fierce eyes were also filled with an astonishing murderous light. At the same time, in the distance, Dong Qing also looked at Wolf King and Viper. Her face suddenly changed and she angrily shouted, "You idiots, that man is a 9-star battle saint. Why are you still not running? She also couldn't figure out why Qin Feiyang had so many experts hiding around him. Although a 9-star battle saint was vulnerable in front of her, for Monkey King and the other sacred beasts, it was undoubtedly a disaster. What? 9-star battle saint? Hearing Dong Qing's voice, Monkey King and the other 3 sacred beast emperors trembled. Run! Monkey King roared. The group of beasts gathered at the back were like birds startled by the twang of a bow. They covered their heads and fled. Run! Viper laughed and used a perfect auxiliary technique. In a few breaths, he was above the group of beasts. Boom! That astonishing poisonous gas poured down like a waterfall. In a flash, a huge poisonous gas boundary was formed and trapped all the beasts inside, including Monkey King and the other 3 sacred beast emperors. It's poisonous. Sand Python King's face changed. Viper glanced at the 4 sacred beast emperors and fixed his eyes on Sand Python King. He said, I heard that even young master was almost killed by your venom. I'm really curious how poisonous your venom is. Then I'll show you. Sand Python King raised his head and roared. A terrifying wave of venom flooded the sky and rushed toward Viper. He had full confidence in his venom. Splash! Viper didn't dodge and was drowned by the venom. You didn't dodge. You're courting death. Sand Python King sneered. In his view, Viper was already a dead man. But suddenly, Viper raised his arm and wiped the venom on his face. He looked down at Sand Python King contemptuously and shook his head. Your venom is nothing but disgusting. How is this possible? Sand Python King glared. Monkey King, Eagle King, and Lion King were also in disbelief. They knew better than anyone how terrible the venom of flying sand python was. Even a 9-star battle saint couldn't be unscathed. However, this human was covered in venom but still acted as if nothing had happened. I can't do it. Kill him for me. Sand Python King shook his head crazily and roared. Boom! Splash! In a flash, all the flying sand pythons in the poisonous gas boundary opened their bloody mouths and spat venom. There were more than 100,000 flying sand pythons here. What kind of scene would it be if they spat venom together? It was hard to imagine. In short, at this moment, the void was full of venom. It was like a huge wave that covered the sky and rushed toward Viper. The contempt on Viper's face became stronger. Suddenly, his pores opened, and the poisonous gas of the venom was sucked into his body. At this moment, all the ferocious beasts stared at Viper in disbelief. Their eyeballs almost fell out. He actually took the initiative to absorb the poisonous gas of flying sand pythons. Is this guy still human? Comfortable. Then now, I'll let you have a taste of my poisonous gas. Viper's face was full of enjoyment. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but his aura had strengthened a little. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand and thousands of strands of poisonous gas fell down. Like gangrene attached to the bones, it drilled into the bodies of those flying sand pythons. Hiss! At this moment, all the winged sand pythons howled in pain in the air. Their bodies were decaying at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than 5 breaths, only white bones were left and fell down. Sand Python King was scared silly. Monkey King, Eagle King, and Lion King were also trembling in fear. How could a human have such a terrible poison in his body? Whoosh! At this moment, Wolf King entered the poisonous gas boundary. He was now a 3-star battle saint. Naturally, his speed couldn't keep up with the 9-star battle saint Viper. Chapter 1150. Sorry, I killed too many on a whim. Viper smiled embarrassedly and said, but I will leave the Sand Python King to you. It is a big fish. Wolf King looked at the Sand Python King and laughed. It is indeed a big fish. The Sand Python King's eyes turned cold. Such a disdainful attitude was simply a naked humiliation to it. But Wolf King turned a blind eye to the Sand Python King's cold eyes and joked, "How can you be so stupid? You want to compete with Viper in terms of poison, aren't you looking for trouble? Bastard! Go to hell." The Sand Python King flew into a rage out of humiliation. Compared to the other winged sand pythons, its body was very small, only about 1 meter long, and its body was covered with yellow scales. Whoosh! At this moment, its body was shining brightly like a bright arrow, carrying monstrous anger, shooting toward Wolf King. Wolf King smiled disdainfully. After all these years, the Sand Python King's cultivation had also broken through, and it was now a 1-star battle saint. But for Wolf King, a 3-star battle saint, it was naturally nothing in his eyes. It stood up like a human, and its body expanded in the wind. In the blink of an eye, a gigantic wolf appeared out of nowhere, and its holy aura roared in all directions. What? This momentum has surpassed us. The Monkey King, Eagle King, and Lion King all changed their expressions. A firefly's light wants to compete with the sun and the moon. You are overestimating yourself. Wolf King smiled coldly. He slapped with his claws, and even the battle aura was not seen. Accompanied by a painful roar, the Sand Python King was sent flying on the spot. Its body was split into 4 or 5 pieces, and blood splashed in the sky. Dead? Theta Wong was dumbfounded. Although the Sand Python King and Wolf King were 2 small realms apart, it should not be killed instantly, right? Run! The Monkey King suddenly roared. For a moment, the herd of beasts was in chaos, and they rushed toward the poisonous gas barrier one after another. However, the poisonous gas barrier was as solid as a rock. No matter how hard it was hit, it did not shake at all. Instead, it was the ferocious beasts that died one after another under the poisonous gas. I'll deal with you the same way you dealt with little Qin Zi back then. Despair. Wolf King laughed madly as he slaughtered in all directions. With the poisonous gas barrier in place, the Monkey King and the other beasts had nowhere to run. They could only wait for death in despair. Dong Qing's face sank as she watched the man and wolf slaughtering their way through the crowd. She glared at Yen Wei and said, "I admit, I've underestimated you. It's good that you know." Yen Wei sneered. "But even if you kill them all, it won't affect our plan in the slightest." Plan? Yen Wei's heart trembled as he asked suspiciously, "What plans do you have?" "When you go to hell, the King of Hell will tell you." Dong Qing's arm trembled as the crimson sword in her hand shot out 10,000 rays of sword chi towards Yen Wei. "I'm afraid you're the one who's going to hell today." Yen Wei's fighting spirit soared to the sky. He raised his rib and violently smashed it towards the sword chi. Boom! Crack! Suddenly, the void in this place twisted and the ground sank. A wave of destructive air rushed out in all directions like a raging wave in the ocean, destroying everything. Whether it was Wolf King's slaughter or Yen Wei's fierce battle, both had reached the climax. Corpses were everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. The canyon was shrouded in a tragic atmosphere. Boom! At the same time, the sound of bombardment at the end of the passage was also incessant. The sound of bombardment came from a grotto. The grotto was about 100 feet long. A black crystal was suspended in the middle of the grotto, spewing out wisps of black mist. Around the crystal stood 4 ferocious beasts and a white-robed man. They were crazily bombarding the black crystal. The man in white looked exactly the same as Qin Feiyang. Obviously, he was the man who slaughtered the invincible Black Army in Iron Ox Town. During this period, his Sea of Qi had been repaired, and his cultivation had returned to its peak state. The four ferocious beasts were a monkey, a snow eagle, a fire dragon lion, and a winged sand python. Among them, the monkey was the strongest. Its whole body was filled with Emperor's aura. That's right. It was the holy monkey that Qin Feiyang had released. The other three fierce beasts were undoubtedly the holy lion, holy eagle, and holy python. Their auras were similar. They were all 6-star battle saints. The man in white said in a deep voice, "I can already sense Qin Feiyang's aura. He's rapidly approaching. Everyone, let's work harder. Why are we afraid of him? With my current strength, killing him is as easy as slaughtering a dog." The holy monkey sneered. The holy eagle, holy lion, and holy python were also full of disdain. Although their current cultivation levels had already fallen to that of a 6-star battle saint, at their peak, which one of them wasn't a false god that struck fear into the hearts of others. Therefore, they looked down on Qin Feiyang from the bottom of their hearts. Is that so? However, before they could finish their words, a cold voice sounded. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang brought Renduxing and descended into the grotto. When enemies meet, their eyes turn red. The holy monkey's eyes suddenly surged with a strong murderous intent. Qin Feiyang glanced at the holy monkey indifferently. Then, he glanced at the man in white and the other three holy beasts. Finally, he looked at the black crystal and asked, "Uncle Ren, is that the source of power?" "That's right." Renduxing nodded. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank slightly. The aura of the black crystal wasn't strong, but it gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. He also discovered that the black crystal was exactly the same as the 5-colored crystal in both shape and size. The only difference was their colors. One was black and shiny, while the other was colorful. "Damned human, hand over your life." The holy monkey was already filled with murderous intent. Now that it saw Qin Feiyang ignoring it, it was instantly enraged. It roared and its aura exploded. It raised its millstone-sized fist and punched towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and looked at the holy monkey. This guy's cultivation had actually recovered to that of a 3-star combat emperor. Swish! He grabbed Renduxing and dodged to the other side. Boom! The holy monkey punched the stone wall of the grotto, causing the entire grotto to tremble violently. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. It was no exaggeration to say that the holy monkey's punch was enough to destroy mountains and rivers. However, the grotto only trembled for a moment before sinking. Moreover, the place that was hit by the holy monkey only dropped a little bit of dust. Could it be that this grotto was the same as the God's Island and the Dragon Island, and had been tempered by someone's divine power? The holy beast retracted its fist and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. It sneered, "The 2-star combat emperor beside you should be held back by Dong Qing." "So what?" Qin Feiyang said indifferently. The holy monkey said, "Without the protection of the 2-star combat emperor, you still dare to come in. Aren't you courting death?" "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang chuckled and said, "You, a 3-star combat emperor, may not be able to threaten me." Arrogant. The holy monkey was furious. Its emperor's might was like a waterfall as it pounced towards Qin Feiyang. "I'm serious. I heard from Uncle Ren that you have recovered to the combat emperor's strength. Actually, I was quite looking forward to it. However, I didn't expect that you would only be a 3-star combat emperor." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Dan Wangkai appeared. Boom! Dan Wangkai immediately waved his hand. His emperor's might roared out and collided with the holy monkey's emperor's might. With a loud bang, Dan Wangkai's body trembled and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. After all, Dan Wangkai was only a 1-star combat emperor. In terms of emperor's might, he was definitely not a match for the holy monkey. There's actually a combat emperor hiding beside you. The white-clothed man's pupils contracted. My foundation is not something you can imagine. Qin Feiyang coldly glanced at him. He then looked at Dan Wangkai and said, "Can you do it?" Dan Wangkai grinned. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, "If I can't even deal with a 3-star combat emperor, am I still worthy of being one of the Azure Sea's 10 heroes?" Qin Feiyang laughed. Dan Wangkai looked at the holy monkey with disdain and said, "Little monkey, I heard that you're very powerful. If you have the guts, come out and play with me. Do we still need to go out? One punch, just one punch is enough to kill you." The holy monkey took a step forward with a ferocious might. His fist, which looked as if it was cast from divine iron, contained the power to destroy the world as it punched towards Dan Wangkai. "I'm afraid this little bit of power is not enough." Dan Wangkai shook his head and laughed. Boom! Suddenly, a golden domain appeared around his body. When this domain appeared, his aura crazily rose. In the blink of an eye, he broke through the shackles of a 1-star combat emperor and stepped into the 2-star combat emperor realm. However, it was not over yet. His aura was still rising. Boom! Finally, his cultivation forcefully broke through to the 3-star combat emperor realm. What's going on? The white-clothed man, the holy lion, the holy eagle, and the holy python all had a look of disbelief on their faces. Qin Feiyang was also extremely shocked. He asked in bewilderment, "This wouldn't be your forbidden technique, right?" "Yes. This is my forbidden technique, the Holy Light Domain. It can increase one's cultivation by 2 small realms," Dan Wangkai said. After saying that, his eyes became dazed. He raised his arm and sent a palm strike towards the holy monkey. Boom! The palm and the fist collided in an instant. The holy monkey was sent flying and crashed into the stone wall behind him. He immediately felt dizzy and saw stars. Strong. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. "You still dare to say that you can kill me in an instant?" Dan Wangkai looked coldly at the holy monkey. He waved his hand and forcefully pulled the holy monkey into the passage. "Human, you have completely angered me." The holy monkey roared angrily. The battle between a human and a beast unfolded in the passage. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and looked at the white-clothed man and the other 3 sacred beasts. He said with a smile, "It's our turn now. You are all 6-star battle saints. You won't disappoint me, right?" "We definitely won't disappoint you." The white-clothed man and the 3 sacred beasts looked at each other and laughed sinisterly at the same time. After saying that, the white-clothed man and the 3 sacred beasts unleashed their sacred aura and charged towards Qin Feiyang. "Uncle Ren, don't move." Qin Feiyang waved his hand. His battle aura appeared and formed a barrier to protect Renduxing. Immediately after, he took a step forward and activated the Soaring Dragon Art. His cultivation instantly soared to the 6-star Battle Saint realm. How is this possible? The white-clothed man was stunned. "Nothing is impossible when it comes to me." Qin Feiyang landed in front of the white-clothed man and sent out a palm strike. His battle aura surged and the palm strike was like thunder. "So what if you have the cultivation of a 6-star Battle Saint? You should know that we have 4 6-star Battle Saints here." The 3 sacred beasts were at the false god realm at their peak. The white-clothed man roared and furiously attacked Qin Feiyang. Chapter 1151. The 3 sacred beasts came at him from 3 different directions. Qin Feiyang had nowhere to run. But Qin Feiyang had no intention of dodging. He stood firmly in the air and glanced at the 3 sacred beasts. Crimson sword energy surged and 3 sword shadows appeared. They slashed at the 3 sacred beasts with an apocalyptic sharpness. Naive. The three sacred beasts sneered. Not only did they not dodge, but they also charged at the sword shadows. Clang! The three sword silhouettes slashed at the three beasts in succession. However, what happened next made Qin Fei Yang flabbergasted. The sword shadows were invincible. However, when they slashed at the three sacred beasts, they did not cause any damage. They only cut off some of their hair. How is this possible? Qin Fei Yang's eyes trembled and were filled with disbelief. At the same time, the three sacred beasts attacked Qin Fei Yang with their various abilities. Pfft! Qin Fei Yang spat out a mouthful of blood. He crashed to the bottom of the cave like a meteorite. His body was in unbearable pain. Although we are only 6-star battle saints, our physical bodies are still in peak condition. With your cultivation, even if you use a perfect battle art, you won't be able to hurt us at all. The sacred lion sneered. That's right. In front of an ant like you, we are like gods. We have immortal bodies. The sacred eagle laughed. Its pair of snow-white sharp claws were like deadly bone claws. They swiped at Qin Fei Yang's head. Peak physical body, Qin Fei Yang muttered. He stood up abruptly and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The Chang Shui appeared and slashed at the sacred eagle. Ah! The sacred eagle let out an anguished wail as its pair of sharp claws fell down. How is this possible? He can actually cut off the sacred eagle's claws. The white-robed man, the sacred lion, and the sacred python looked at the howling sacred eagle in the air. Their hearts were in turmoil. That's all there is to it. Qin Fei Yang laughed. With the Chang Shui in his hand, he charged at the sacred eagle like a human-shaped dragon. I'll end your life first. Chang Shui was as white as jade and exquisite beyond compare. It was like a masterpiece from the heavens, but its sharpness was bone-piercing. A trace of panic appeared in the holy eagle's eyes. Don't even think about it. At this moment, the white-robed man, the holy python, and the holy lion roared at the same time and charged toward Qin Fei Yang. Humph! Qin Fei Yang coldly snorted and threw out 3 palms. Golden light burst out from his palms. Return formula. 1 man and 2 beasts were sent flying on the spot. The sacred python and sacred lion were better off. After all, their physical bodies were strong. However, the white-robed man's face turned pale as blood gushed out of his mouth. Qin Fei Yang, is this all you've got? He stood awkwardly in the void, staring coldly at Qin Fei Yang. Qin Fei Yang said indifferently, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's nothing to be surprised about. After saying that, he took a step forward and continued to attack the sacred eagle. Haha, the man in white raised his head and laughed maniacally. Suddenly, he lowered his head to look at Qin Fei Yang and laughed sinisterly, I'm sorry, but what you see of me is just the tip of the iceberg. Qin Fei Yang frowned, stopped in his tracks, and lowered his head to look at the white-robed man. It's time to let you know my true cultivation. The white-robed man licked his lips, and his aura soared. 7-star battle saint. 8-star battle saint. 9-star battle saint. In the end, his cultivation had actually forcefully broken through to 1-star battle emperor. What? Qin Fei Yang turned pale with fright. Qin Fei Yang, wake up. The white-robed man's long hair fluttered in the wind. Like a demon god, he instantly rushed in front of Qin Fei Yang and slapped his palm on Qin Fei Yang's chest. Puff! Qin Fei Yang flew out horizontally and slammed into the stone wall. His entire body immediately emitted a heart-wrenching pain. He lowered his head to look at his chest. His chest had already caved in, and his flesh and blood were a mess. Even his heart had been split open. If he had not activated the battle formula, this attack would have killed him. Did you see that? This is true strength. Your cultivation is nothing. The white-robed man laughed as he stepped on Qin Feiyang's face with an arrogant expression. Powerful. Really powerful. I didn't expect there to be so many hidden powerhouses in the spiritual state. I was really ignorant in the past. However, Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold, and a mighty dragon's aura roared out from his body. If you want to kill me with just this little bit of cultivation, then you are gravely mistaken. Emperor Prison. Qin Feiyang roared, and the purple gold dragon's soul roared out. Immediately, the entire stone cave turned into a prison. The holy eagle, holy lion, and holy python were all imprisoned here. The white-robed man was also shocked and quickly retreated. He raised his head to look at the purple gold dragon soul, and his eyes were filled with shock. Qin Feiyang slowly stood up, and dragon blood splattered and stained the ground. He swallowed a heart protection pill and coldly stared at the white-robed man. Is a one-star combat emperor very strong? I will kill you all the same. It doesn't matter. The white-robed man shrugged. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang frowned. Looking at the white-robed man's calm expression, an inexplicable sense of uneasiness rose in his heart. Because we have been planning for so long, and we have been waiting for this moment. The white-robed man chuckled. With a wave of his hand, a wave of battle aura appeared. However, this battle aura was not directed at Qin Feiyang, but at the purple gold dragon blood under Qin Feiyang's feet. Qin Feiyang looked down in surprise and saw the battle aura sweep up the purple gold dragon blood on the ground and immediately rush toward the black crystal. When the purple gold dragon blood sprinkled on the black crystal instantly emitted a black light. A terrifying aura burst out with a roar. In the end, the purple gold dragon blood was completely absorbed by the black crystal. In between the black light, there was a dazzling purple gold divine light. What's going on? Qin Feiyang's face was full of shock and confusion. The next moment, he saw something that made Qin Feiyang even more shocked. Clang! Whoosh! The black fog spewed out by the black crystal turned into a black iron chain that cut through the void like lightning and wrapped around the head of the purple gold dragon soul. Then, the iron chain quickly shrank and pulled the purple gold dragon soul toward the black crystal. What's going on? Qin Feiyang looked at the black crystal and then looked at the purple gold dragon soul. The uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. He wanted to disperse the purple gold dragon soul. However, he was shocked to find that he could not control the purple gold dragon soul. Immediately, his body and mind trembled. Could this black crystal be the same as Wolf King's innate divine ability, which could deprive living creatures of their fighting souls? No, he shook his head crazily. The purple gold dragon soul was his greatest reliance. He would never allow such a thing to happen. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed fiercely. He grabbed Chang Shui and rushed toward the black crystal. He wanted to destroy this strange thing. Whoosh! However, at this moment, the man in white stood in front of Qin Feiyang and pushed with both hands. The battle chi rolled out like a torrent and blasted toward Qin Feiyang. Get lost! Qin Feiyang shouted. The return formula appeared again. The golden light was dazzling and collided with the battle chi. Boom! Qin Feiyang was blasted away on the spot and blood spurted out of his mouth. The skin on his arm was torn and the flesh was exposed. The man in white also retreated a few steps and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Qin Feiyang. You're really powerful. If it's one-on-one, even if I'm a one-star combat emperor, I'm definitely not your opponent. But now. Speaking of this, he turned his head and looked at the black crystal. His eyes shone brightly. Qin Feiyang also hurriedly looked up and saw the purple gold dragon soul being dragged into the black crystal by the iron chain. Damn it, Qin Feiyang roared. The purple gold dragon soul disappeared and was swallowed by the black crystal. The man in white looked back at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Don't worry, your purple gold dragon soul has not been taken away. Qin Feiyang was surprised and hurriedly looked inside his sea of qi. Sure enough, the purple gold dragon soul that had disappeared reappeared in his sea of qi. He let out a long breath and looked up at the man in white. What exactly do you want to do? What do I want to do? The man in white murmured and then chuckled. The sacred eagle, sacred lion, and sacred python also laughed. Crack! Suddenly, a crisp sound was heard. Qin Feiyang hurriedly looked in the direction of the sound and saw a purple gold light shield above the black crystal. But at this moment, the purple gold light shield was broken. And the moment the purple gold light shield was broken, the black crystal seemed to have gained freedom and kept spinning in the air. At the same time, a murderous and bloody aura surged out from the black crystal. Under this aura, whether it was Qin Feiyang, the man in white, or the three sacred beasts, there was an indescribable fear in their hearts. Feeling. It was like a demon was awakening. What exactly is it? Qin Feiyang whispered. The man in white looked at the black crystal and said, actually, it's not a source of power. Qin Feiyang was shocked. The man in white said without turning his head, it's called demon crystal. It's a demon comparable to a divine artifact. What? Qin Feiyang turned pale with fright. It was not a source of power, but a demon, and it was comparable to a divine artifact? You're surprised, right? The man in white turned to Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, actually, we brought you to the ruins not to kill you, but to let you unlock the seal on this demon crystal. Seal. Qin Feiyang frowned. That's right. You saw the purple gold light shield that appeared outside the demon crystal just now. That's the seal. The man in white said. Qin Feiyang said, what's going on? Why do I need to unlock the seal? The man in white said, because in today's world, only you can unlock it. Only me. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Yes. But that's not right. In this world, there are two people who can unlock this seal. The first is you, and the second is your ancestor. The man in white said. Say it clearly at once. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. It actually involved his ancestor. This matter was definitely not simple. Well, I'll say it directly. The seal on this demon crystal was set by your ancestor. And to unlock this seal, there are two necessary factors. The first is the purple gold dragon blood, and the second is the purple gold dragon soul. As long as one of these two is missing, the seal cannot be unlocked. Chapter 1152. Purple gold dragon blood, purple gold dragon soul, that's why you fought with me. On one hand, you made me bleed, and on the other hand, you forced me to activate the purple gold dragon soul, Qin Feiyang said. Yes. The white-robed man nodded. So, this is a trap. Qin Feiyang felt bitter in his heart. He looked up at the white-robed man and said, but I don't understand. Why do you want to break the seal of the demon crystal? Because we want the demon crystal. You've seen the power of the storm and gravity, right? They were born because of the demon crystal. It's no exaggeration to say that the demon crystal has enough power to destroy the world. As long as you get it, the destruction of the great Qin Empire will be just around the corner. The white-robed man laughed. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. You're Mu Tianyang's lackey. He should have known that the white-robed man was with the four sacred beasts and must be related to Mu Tianyang. The white-robed man chuckled. Don't make it sound so bad. I'm his subordinate. What's the difference between a subordinate and a lackey? Qin Feiyang sneered. Whatever you say. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the demon crystal is in our hands now. The white-robed man said. In our hands? Qin Feiyang sneered and said sarcastically, you're too naive. The demon crystal is already under Uncle Ren's control. Before Qin Feiyang finished, the white-robed man said, the naive one is not me, it's you. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. The white-robed man said, yes, the demon crystal is indeed under Ren Duxing's control, but he's one of us. The three sacred beasts didn't hide the ridicule in their eyes. What? Qin Feiyang's body quivered. He turned around and looked at Ren Duxing, who was standing inside the battle chi barrier, as he asked, Uncle Ren, tell me, is this true? Ren Duxing looked at Qin Feiyang without saying a word. Suddenly, with a wave of his hand, the battle aura barrier shattered. Then, he took a step forward and landed in front of the magic crystal. He raised his arm and spread out his 5 fingers. The magic crystal automatically fell into his palm. He stared at the magic crystal. At this moment, it was as if he had changed into a different person. The benevolence on his face had disappeared and was replaced by greed. Congratulations, my lord. The white-robed man and the 3 saint beasts exchanged glances before prostrating themselves in the air and worshipping Ren Duxing. Their expressions were incomparably respectful. My lord. Qin Feiyang trembled both physically and mentally. Could it be that what the man in white said was true? Ren Duxing was with them? No. Uncle Ren was definitely not that kind of person. He gazed at Ren Duxing's back, his heart filled with apprehension and a trace of anticipation. He was nervous. He was nervous that Ren Duxing would tell him that it was true. At the same time, he longed for it. He longed for Ren Duxing to tell him that everything the white-clothed man said was false. For a moment, the cave fell into a dead silence. It was unknown how much time had passed. Ren Duxing suddenly waved his hand and the magic crystal disappeared. Then, he slowly turned around and lowered his head to look at the white-clothed man and the 3 saint beasts. It's been hard on you all these years. Get up. Whether it was his tone or his expression, they were no longer as gentle as before. They were filled with indifference. Yes. The white-clothed man and the 3 saint beasts got up and stood respectfully behind Ren Duxing. Ren Duxing looked at Qin Feiyang. As for Qin Feiyang, the moment Ren Duxing spoke, it was as if a bolt from the blue had struck his mind. All of this was true. Why? He slowly shook his head as if he had lost his soul. Although he did not have a deep relationship with Ren Duxing and did not have many interactions, Ren Duxing's kindness and righteousness had deeply touched him. Therefore, he had always regarded Ren Duxing as a great hero. In addition to his relationship with Ren Wuxuang, he also regarded Ren Duxing as a respected elder. Moreover, his character was also deeply influenced by Ren Duxing. In the past, when he was expelled from the capital, he hated the emperor, hated the great Qin Empire, and hated everything. This hatred was almost distorting his humanity. Until he met Ren Duxing. Watching Ren Duxing sacrifice his life for the sake of protecting all living beings in the world, he was incomparably touched. The hatred in his heart also gradually changed. He still hated the emperor as always. But he had gradually let go of everything else. Therefore, although he did not have much contact with Ren Duxing had a great influence on him. However, he did not expect that all of this was fake. The Ren Duxing he once saw was just a carefully concealed hypocritical face. It was not hard to imagine how big of a blow this was to him. Ren Duxing suddenly said, actually, I already knew that you are the son of the emperor. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands, looked at Ren Duxing gloomily, and asked, how did you know? Ren Duxing said, I can sense the power of your bloodline. Qin Feiyang said, so you have been lying to me, using me? Ren Duxing said indifferently, you are very smart, if I don't do this, you definitely won't be fooled. Why, what did my great Qin Empire do to let you become Mu Tianyang's lackey? Qin Feiyang roared. Renduxing shook his head. You are still too naive. Do you really think that I am Renduxing? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Renduxing said, this body is indeed Renduxing's, but the soul has changed. What? Could it be that you are? Qin Feiyang's face changed, and a terrifying thought crawled up in his mind. Yes. I am Mu Tianyang. Renduxing said. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Impossible. Nothing is impossible. Back then, your ancestor could have destroyed both my soul and body. However, due to his so-called benevolence, he spared me. He sealed a wisp of my divine sense in the demon crystal and used the power of the demon crystal to suppress all the 4 divine beasts under my command here. Renduxing said. No, now it should be Mu Tianyang. Qin Feiyang shouted, the ancestor is very benevolent, you should be grateful and not continue to do evil. Grateful? Mu Tianyang seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world as he raised his head and laughed. He destroyed my Tianyang empire, killed my subordinates, and almost killed me. You still want me to be grateful to him? Even when he sealed me, he directly told me how to break the seal. Tell me, why did he do that? He's just humiliating me. Do you understand? Let me tell you, I can't wait to destroy his bones and scatter his ashes. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but clench his fists. Suddenly, Mu Tianyang stopped laughing, lowered his head to look at Qin Feiyang, and continued, he sealed me in the demon crystal, thinking that I couldn't escape, but he underestimated me too much. Although I only have a wisp of divine sense left, I am still a war god after all. After several thousand years, I finally tore open a crack in the seal. Although the crack is only as thin as a strand of hair, it is enough for me to escape. Mu Tianyang laughed proudly. Qin Feiyang mocked, after thousands of years, you only managed to tear a hair-thin crack. What's there to be proud of? Mu Tianyang was not angry at all, and continued, after escaping, I originally wanted to wake up my former subordinates and leave. But in the end, I found that the power of the demon crystal had actually sealed off the entire canyon. In other words, if I wanted to leave this place, I had to first control the demon crystal. However, although I managed to tear a crack in the seal on the demon crystal, with my current ability, I wouldn't be able to destroy the entire seal without hundreds of thousands of years. I began to despair. Because only your ancestor has the purple gold dragon blood and purple gold dragon soul. Until one day, Renduxing broke into the canyon. A trace of reminiscence appeared in Mu Tianyang's eyes. With Renduxing's ability, it was impossible for him to pass through the storm and gravity and come to this canyon alive. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. That's right. At that time, I also found it strange. He could actually survive the storm and gravity. Out of curiosity, I secretly observed him and found that there was a red battle sword hidden in his body. It was this battle sword that was protecting him. Mu Tianyang said. Red battle sword? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice, is it the battle sword in Dong Qing's hand? Yes. When I learned that the battle sword could protect him, I knew that the opportunity had come. I showed up and asked him for help. But he was too stubborn. No matter how I tempted him, he just wouldn't help me. He even threatened to destroy this wisp of my divine sense. Of course I was very angry, so I found an opportunity to enter his sea of consciousness, erase his soul, and replace it. This is the so-called possession. As for that battle sword, it naturally belongs to me. Mu Tianyang laughed as if he was talking about a very ordinary thing. But Qin Feiyang's eyes turned blood red, and his hands clenched tightly together, full of anger. It turned out. Renduxing was indeed a good person. Mu Tianyang joked, now, do you want to kill me very much to avenge Renduxing? Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in his heart, and asked, that battle sword, where did Ren Duxing get it? Mu Tianyang said, according to his memory, he got it in a place called the Magic Dragon Mountain Range in He Province. Magic Dragon Mountain Range? Qin Feiyang frowned. He had never heard of this place before, and said, then since you have already taken over, why didn't you leave? I left. But when I went out, I asked around and found that your ancestor had actually disappeared. And after 10,000 years, the great Qin Empire has become stronger. With my current strength, I don't have the ability to destroy it. So I came back here. On one hand, I kept a low profile, and on the other hand, I continued to think of ways to break the seal. Not only does the magic crystal have the power to destroy the world, but more importantly, it is your ancestors. If I can get it, I will feel a little better. Mu Tianyang laughed. What? The magic crystal is my ancestors. Qin Feiyang's eyes widened. Yes. But now, it belongs to me. Mu Tianyang nodded and smiled. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.